And we are live.
All right, welcome to Cardiff AGM 2015.
AGM for the annual general meeting of the Cardiff Student Union. And well, basically, what is it? It's basically just a meeting where that it's every year, and it's kind of to discuss new motions that the student union kind of find appropriate. The university to do, or like the student body to do, like changes.
Yep. So we've got 3 motions this year.
That's a big change to last year, because last year we had quite a lot.
Yeah, last year there were quite a few. I wasn't there for that one.
I remember
it was a long one.
It was a very long AGM. It went on for about.
I think there's 7 or 8 last year. So, but no, I think there is 3 coming up tonight, which you'll be able to watch. I can see everyone's live on the YouTube at the moment. If you want to get involved via the Twitter, the hashtag is #CardiffAGM. So send us in your tweets of what's going on in the night, and we'll get them live through, and you'll make it onto air.
Also, yes, you can watch the whole thing on our YouTube channel, and we will tune it down. Okay. Yeah, like hold it like that. Okay. It's a bit. The microphone levels are a bit off, but that will come as we. The meeting hasn't really started yet, so it doesn't really matter just yet. Right now, there's just quite a lot of people starting to gather in.
I'm speaking too loud.
I'm speaking too loud.
So, but yeah, I mean, there's loads of people here tonight. So, what we're looking at doing is just getting as many people in as possible, trying to get students involved, everyone from the societies and the unions, just to get involved really. It's going to be a really big night. It happens every single calendar year, so if you're watching live on the YouTube channel, then keep us updated on how you feel it's all going. But we're just waiting for it to start really. The hall is pretty much packed out here at the Great Hall in the Union.
There's definitely seats available.
So if you are coming and you're listening to us on the way, we've got a few front row seats left.
Yeah, and there's also been quite a lot of activity on Twitter already. People are using the hashtag that is Cardiff AGM.
Cardiff AGM, yeah.
And usually it actually gets a bit rowdy. Not rowdy, but it usually gets a bit heated on Twitter.
I'm looking forward to a bit of debate.
Yes, usually quite a good heated debate. The motions this year, I don't know if they are as controversial as
I think a lot of them this year
before.
they've been brought up before. We mentioned the one about fossil fuels. The Union newspaper Gower-quiroga ran an article on that. There was so we're looking at a lot of opinions on that, but I think it's all pretty straightforward this year. Last year you said there was some heated discussions.
Yeah, last year there was one on pro-choice or pro-life. So it was a discussion quite easy about abortion, whether or not you should be pro-life, pro-choice. And obviously with having societies such as Catholic society, we then had really strong views on that point. It got really, really heated. And also there was a point on whether or not the SUs should recognise Palestine as a state.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously that sort of thing, they do, a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on that.
It's an incredibly up-to-date matter that we're going through today as well, especially with the motion about student parents.
Yeah.
So that's quite a popular one, I think. It's going to be interesting. We were reading through some of the stats that we got that have been given. One was a ridiculous stat. I couldn't believe it when I read it. 4% of student parents have actually been not allowed into a lecture before if they gave the excuse about their child.
Wow.
And then 50% have been late for lectures because of their child. I think one of the topics bringing up today is so there'd be like a creche for kids. I don't know, it's just it's quite a wide range of things to do tonight.
Yeah, obviously Cardiff University has a very diverse body. There's
Incredibly
a lot
so,
of different students with a lot of different backgrounds from a lot of like their parents, there's international students, everything, and also having like 2 different languages. There's a lot to look after for the student. So yeah, but like recognising those small groups, like parents groups, I think that's important as well. So it's actually quite an important meeting, I would say.
It is quite important, yeah. I mean, we are filling up even more than we were about 2 minutes ago, so we are almost ready to start now. I know that the chair, Brian Griffiths, is on his way, and he'll be kicking things off for us.
He was doing some paperwork by his chair up on the stage, and yeah, right now people are just sitting in the chairs talking, discussing.
It's really riveting, I'll tell you that.
I think there's quite a lot of Twitter activity, people are getting the hashtag out.
Yeah, from our vantage point we can see a lot of phones.
Lots of phones there.
And I can see a lot of Twitter, but not many hashtags, so let's get them coming in.
The hashtags coming in. There's also in every seat, the people have been given headsets where they can translate the language that they hear. So if there's English being spoken, they can speak it well, they can listen to it in Welsh, and if vice versa. So that's really good.
Yeah, it's fantastic, especially if some of the speakers are a bit hard to listen to, I suppose, which we may find tonight. But no, a lot of interactivity, I suppose, tonight.
Yeah,
it's loads of ways to get involved. We've mentioned the Twitter hashtag Cardiff AGM, but everyone's got multicoloured sheets on, so they can easily just get involved. And so just looking at what can change there. Motion 2, the mental health training for personal tutors.
Yeah, because one of the statistics there is that 1 in 4 of the students at college, university do experience some sort of mental issue, and that is obviously something that the universities should consider and should bring awareness to.
Yeah, Cardiff do have a fantastic student-led service, like we've got Cardiff Nightline, Student Minds have great support, but it is really about pushing that and getting those numbers down at the moment, obviously.
Because also, I think with the personal tutor program, it's kind of that the student should be able to confide and to talk to the personal tutor, because it's for a lot of them that's the only person that they have to turn to. Absolutely. In many ways, and like with regards to who they can turn to at the university. I think they just want to kind of make that a little bit better for the student with a problem.
Our third and final motion tonight is the fossil fuels, whether we should be putting our money into this energy. Obviously it's non-renewable, but that's always a controversial point, especially at Cardiff with will there be a rival, a lot of debate on this one. I think this will probably be one of the ones that causes the most debate.
Yeah, I agree, because obviously they probably make money from it.
Absolutely, yeah, the money must be soaring through, but it's whether...
Yeah, it says here that they invest and profit from £2 million in... Oh, we're about to start.
Just to make you aware, we're not quite for it yet, which is to say we don't quite have enough people in the room to pass formal business, so we're going to start the meeting.
that was Bryn Griffiths saying that we actually need more students in the room to pass any motions.
So the AGM is the highest decision-making body in the Students' Union other than the Board of Trustees. So thank you to everyone who is in the room for coming and playing your part in steering the union in the direction that you, the student members, want to see. This evening we'll be ratifying the minutes of the previous meeting. We will be receiving the annual financial reports from Claire, the Student Union President, approving the union's affiliations, and we'll be debating, hopefully, the three motions that have been submitted by yourselves as student members. There's a few things from me before we begin. You will have agenda packs on your seats. If you need the agenda pack in Welsh and you haven't received it yet, please go to the information point to the right of the room or your left, and we have plenty there that are available. You should also all be given a green ballot card. Please make sure you keep hold of it and don't lose it. When I ask you to vote, when I ask you to hold your ballot card up in the air, it just makes it a little bit easier for us to count rather than just hands. Also, if you'd like to take part in any of this meeting through the medium of Welsh, you're more welcome to do so. We do have simultaneous translation today, so if you'd like to speak in Welsh, just please make me aware so non-Welsh speakers have a chance to pop their headset on, through which an English translation will be provided by Analyst translator. If I can take the chance to ask you all to pop your headsets off and just do a quick test to make sure you can all hear Alec clearly. If you're having a problem, please make sure they're set to channel number 1, which is the middle section of your headsets, and have a play with volume controls. If you're still having trouble, please raise your hand and someone will come help you.
The people in the hall are just now being asked to check their headsets because, as we said earlier, they can both translate what's said in English and in Welsh, which is pretty cool, really.
That is really cool. I'm quite shocked at that. They need more people. Need more people in. If you want to join the debate on Twitter, please make sure you use our hashtag. It's hashtag #AGM or CCB5E. If you'd like to submit open questions to the trustees, which is point 6 on the agenda, you can raise your hand when we get to that point. Otherwise, you can ask your questions in advance by emailing them to agm@cardiff.ac.uk. I'll then read them out to the trustees to provide answers to. And finally, looking ahead to the last thing on your agenda, any other business. We haven't received any items for it yet, but if you would like to submit something for any other business, please again go to the information point and straight to them. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Claire Blakeway, Students' Union President, to the stage to say a few words about the Welsh Assembly elections before we move to our formal agenda.
So the President of the Cardiff Student Union is now walking up onto the stage.
But yeah, she'll be just talking through some of our final points.
I'm going to talk to you now about Wyatt's registered vote for the Welsh Assembly elections that are happening in May 2016. Everyone should register to make sure they vote in the Welsh Assembly elections, not only because everybody should have a say in who forms the next Welsh government, because groups that disproportionately don't turn out more often than not do worse out of things. We can't let this happen to students in Wales. We can't lose out. Decisions made by the next Welsh government will affect you while studying here at university, or if you continue to stay in Wales after graduating. Things like housing, healthcare and education are all devolved powers to the Welsh Assembly. Issues which are intrinsically linked to your time here at Cardiff and your future within Wales if you choose to stay within the country. There are 30,000 students at Cardiff University. We have so much collective power, but we cannot use this if students don't vote. The Welsh Assembly elections are also elected slightly differently. We have the same system as the general election for constituencies, but there's also 16 Assembly members who are elected to represent the 4 regions and are elected using a more proportional system. It doesn't matter that you're only here for a few years at university, these elections will still affect you, so you deserve to have your say. Young people's voices must be heard in Wales so that we can have an influence on the institution which governs us. Make sure you register to vote so so that when it comes to polling day in May, you can say to the politicians that young people do actually care. And you can hold the politicians to account. You can register online in just 5 minutes, ready for the polling day on May the 5th. Over the next year, the Students' Union, ahead of the Assembly elections, will be running several voter registration initiatives to encourage students to register to vote for these elections. Now we're going to do a promotional exercise to raise awareness of the Assembly elections. So could I ask everybody to hold up the register to vote card is on your chairs, in the air, and we're going to have a photo of everybody in this hall. If I could also ask you to stand up as well, please. Thank you.
Okay, there we go. So we've got a little demonstration going on now just to encourage people to vote. I'm written down that 30,000 students at Cardiff, and it's just about getting as many people as we can to get that vote. It's on May the 5th, so if you're listening in and you haven't registered to vote, please do so. We mentioned that there's going to be some initiatives held in the Student Union in the coming months, and we're looking at all the people standing up now. You can probably see them on camera. It's going to be a great photo.
Great photo. I just hope all these people actually do register.
Yeah, very true.
It's a very important course.
Yeah.
I think, don't think like a lot of English students coming into Wales, I bet they don't feel the same like need to register for a Welsh election as they would do a national one, but obviously it's equally as important.
Yeah, that message was put across there, wasn't it? I mean, you are here for minimum 3 years, but a lot of people can stay here for longer. So, and a lot can change in that time. So it is really important to get that vote across. And look at all the different colours of paper here. It does really put across the diversity we have here at Cardiff.
You can now sit
we
down.
were kind of wondering what all these coloured papers were from.
So we're now going to delay item 2 on the
message.
agenda,
Quite a good picture,
the ratification of the previous year's AGM's minutes. We'll come to that later once we've made chorusy. So we're going to move straight on to items 3 and 4. So if I can invite Claire Blakeway back to the stage to give the annual and financial report to the Students' Union.
Okay, so you heard that now. That's Claire Blakeway. She's going to be giving the financial report just as we're waiting for enough people to come in.
Exciting year for Cardiff University Students' Union, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce our annual impact report. Over the last year, we have seen huge growth in the Students' Union at both Park Place and the Heath Park campus. This success was reflected in the recent National Student Survey, where Cardiff University Students' Union achieved its highest ever student satisfaction score of 87%, a 2% increase from 2014. We are delighted that this maintains our position within the top 5 students' unions in the UK. This year, we invested £50,000 into renovating our facilities at the Heath Park campus, the biggest students' union investment ever on the campus. We also renamed our students' union presence at the Heath with the aim that students will identify us with us more easily. We also undertook a significant development on the first floor of the students' union building, redeveloping the first floor of the Students' Union building and redeveloping our cafe space, which was CF10, to a dance studio called A Studio. Looking ahead, we have secured funding to redevelop our ground floor, increasing our retail offering and creating a modern, fit-for-purpose look to our Segenith Road entrance. This year, we embarked on our new 3-year strategic plan and have already made fantastic progress. The strategy of the Students' Union aims to work with every single Cardiff University student to enhance their university experience. I am delighted that we have been chosen as one of the 9 students' unions across the UK to take part in the NUS Anti-Lag Culture pilot scheme in 2015-16. I look forward to seeing how this campaign progresses this year, and I'd like to thank everyone, students and the elected officer team from last year for what was such a successful year. Part of my role this evening is to look back on the previous year and review some of our successes. Last year was an exciting year for the Students' Union, and it gives me great pleasure to talk through some of our achievements. We embarked on some of the most ambitious organisational developments in recent memory, and as you will hear, had some outstanding results.
As a second-year officer, I was lucky enough to not only be part of that period of change, but able to reflect and build on these results as we move into this year. I will now begin the report. So the first slide shows Grace Piddington, our International Students Officer, talking about the Students' Union. Student engagement. Participation in the union's activities and services is measured annually, and we use this information to drive improvements and ensure that student participation reflects the diversity of the university students. The results show that despite measuring one less area in 2014-15, the union services are continuing to show substantial growth. We exceeded 20,000 students engaged in our services for the first time last year, and we are on track to meet our target of 25,000 by 2017, which is a huge achievement for the Students' Union. Student satisfaction. It can be challenging for any organisation to know exactly how they're doing, and historically this has especially been the case for the Students' Union. Over the past few years, a number of organisations have sought to independently assess student satisfaction at students' unions. We recognise the National Students' Survey. Last year, we scored 87% in the National Student Survey. So 87% of our students were satisfied with the Students' Union. This was our highest result yet and placed us as 5th best students' union in the UK, a huge achievement. If you look at the presentation slide here, you can see in blue is our result from 2012, the first year of the National Student Survey, where we scored student satisfaction rate for 83%. And you just see we've grown rapidly to our score now, which is 87%. Depth of engagement. Since 2011, the union has recorded usage of its activities and services, with the number of users increasing rapidly each year. Union services, compared to 18,924 in 2013-14, representing a 9% increase. In total, this amounts to over 68% of all Cardiff University students. In addition, we recognise that many students engage with us in ways that we don't measure, like using social facilities in the union and buying things in our shops, bars and cafes. It is unlikely that we'll be ever able to measure these sorts of engagements. We are always striving to ensure that all Cardiff University students feel engaged with the Students' Union and are satisfied with what we offer. So, I'm just going to run over the headline achievements from last year. So, academic. We worked with the university to develop a business case for £38 million worth of lecture refurbs. We lobbied the university to release exam timetables earlier, and we created a peer-assisted learning programme to support healthcare students whilst away on placement. In regards to activities, our new Give It A Go programme engaged with over 2,000 freshers this year. We introduced Athlete of the Week for our sports clubs, and we organised the UK's first ever Medics Varsity for our medics teams. We introduced a Union Services Fair to the Heath Park campus, and Heath Rag raised over £6,000, which was a record sum. Representation and liberation. Last year's AGM, we introduced a full-time postgraduate officer. We increased voter registration for the general election by 19,500 in 4 months and increased turnout in Cardiff Central by 8%. This was the biggest increase in turnout for any constituency in Wales, which is a huge achievement. We ran women in leadership workshops to encourage more women to run in our elections. And as a result, an unprecedented amount of women are now in our full-time elected officer team, with 6 women and 1 man. We initiated the Welsh Language Steering Group and policy groups. We included the Welsh language in all officer job descriptions. We are also chosen as one of the 9 UK universities to be involved in the NUS Anti-Lag Culture pilot scheme. We also engaged in Stonewall's Rainbow Laces campaign, with the majority of sports teams wearing the laces for the Welsh varsity. Welfare. We created pilot residence associations to support all first-year students. We worked with the university to open a GP clinic on campus. We lobbied Welsh Government to reverse cuts to the Financial Contingency Fund, and we successfully campaigned for the removal of letting agency boards from student houses. Organisation and institutional-wide. We worked with the university to produce a design brief for the Centre for Student Life, a £45 million investment in the student experience. We secured £2.5 million to redevelop the ground floor and first floor of the Students' Union and provide more performance space for societies. We invested £50,000 to renovate student union facilities at the Heath Park campus, and last year's officer team won Officer Team of the Year for NUS Wales. We launched the Students' Union's new 3-year strategic plan, and we secured tuition fee funding for a small number of asylum seekers. We launched the Can't Touch This campaign to raise awareness of zero-tolerance policy to sexual harassment, and we fed into a multi-million-pound estates master plan published by the university to shape campus developments over the next decade. So you can see it was a very busy year last year, and we achieved a lot. And I want to thank everyone that was a part of that. Performance against targets. To ensure the effective role of the union's strategy, board sets a balanced scorecard, which include 20 targets that the Students' Union worked towards achieving. Over the past year, the organisation has achieved 13 of its targets. Highlights of these include the second floor capital projects, which obviously will be open within the next few weeks with a grand opening of a studio, and also funding for the redevelopment of the ground floor. However, the union didn't achieve all its targets, and you're probably wondering which ones it didn't achieve. It didn't achieve an improvement of 4% on NSS question 23 for Heath Park students, but this is something that the union are working towards over the next year. And it also didn't achieve setting annualised budgets for Kusu and Cussel. Has anybody got any questions on the annual report before I move on to the financial report?
Yes, at the front. If you want to pop your headsets on, please. The gentleman's going to speak in Welsh.
On their headphones to listen to the translation live.
Whenever you're ready.
Roedd y referendwm ar benodi swyddog llawn amser I gynrychioli myfyrwyr Cymraeg eu haith a dysgwyr yn un o'r rhai mwyaf llwyddiannus yn hanes yr undeb. Hoffwn i wybod, just yn sydyn yn gynta, pam oedd na ddim sôn o hwn yn yr adroddiad blynyddol. A wedyn, hoffwn i hefyd ofyn, nath yr undeb benderfynu I ddefnyddio ei grym I sicrhau pleidlais yn erbyn yn y referendwm, gan gymryd fod yr undeb I fod I weithredu yn unol gyda dyheuadau ei myfyrwyr, sut ac ym mha ffordd y mae'r penderfyniad I beidio penodi swyddog llawn amser wedi buddio myfyrwyr Cymraeg y brifysgol? Diolch.
Good question.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. So I'll just answer it in the order in which you asked the question. So the referendum, the reason why it wasn't mentioned in the annual report was because that's not an area we particularly focus on. The annual report touches on the strategic areas of the Students' Union, and that didn't fall into that. But the referendum was hugely successful, and it's something that we should celebrate because so many students engaged with it. In regards to the referendum and the elected officers' involvement, elected officers are elected to have an opinion, and they gave that opinion last year in the referendum. If you want to make changes to our constitution so that elected officers can't be involved in referendums, then the place to do that is to take a motion to AGM. We are doing lots for Welsh speakers here in the Students' Union. Since I've started this role, we have created a brand new role for Welsh language speakers to support the Welsh language officer, the part-time role, and to improve Welsh language provisions within the Students' Union. So we now have a full-time Welsh language coordinator. Alongside that, we also have a Welsh language steering group, which is composed of a range of different stakeholders from the Students' Union, then the university, where we're looking at how we can improve our Welsh language provisions here within the Students' Union. As a subgroup to that, we also have a Welsh language policy group, where we're developing our Welsh language policy, which we're hoping to implement from February 2016. We also have another subgroup called the Welsh Language Exec Group, which is looking to improve the representational structures for Welsh language students. Thank you. Is there any other questions?
Can we get a microphone to him, please?
Is that working? Cracking. Why is it of this year as last year, the SU has had such a little role in the campaign for free education? This year we had a huge problem with the deadline being set a week before, even though as long as the officers are aware, campaigns pick up their momentum in the last week. Last year particularly, there was no support given to the open marches, no transport was put on, same kind of deadlines were put in place. Why is the SU not representing the interests of students and the right to free education? Does it stand against free education?
See if we've got a response.
Thank you. The SU absolutely does not stand against free education, and we encourage our students to campaign. I was really happy to see so many students engage with the free education demo this year in London, and so many Cardiff students attend that demo. Obviously, this is the first time in a while that Cardiff have sent students to that demo, so it was a really great thing and a step in the right direction. But if you feel that we can do more to support the free education campaign, please do come and chat to the officers. We're here to work for you. And if you want us to run campaigns around that, we will. Thank you for your question. Are there any other questions?
There's a microphone on your way.
I was just wondering if you could say a little...
Can I just remind people to say their name before they start speaking for the minutes? Sorry, apologies.
Oh, yeah. My name is Sarah, I'll say it. I'm also a student senator. So, I was just wondering if you could say a little bit about the progress of the motions that passed from last year's AGM.
So the motions that passed at last year's AGM?
Like the progress about carrying them out.
We can cover that when we go through the minutes, which we will hopefully do later on, assuming we reach chorusing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, in the middle, please.
Hi, it's Zoe Lindholm, the Green Party Society President. I'm just wondering, has there been any further developments on the pro-choice stance that was declined last year?
Yeah, so around that, obviously the decision was taken by AGM last year, which is the decision that obviously the union have gone with. Of course, we are supporting students who do want to have abortions, and our welfare officer is going to be running a campaign over the next few weeks around that. But of course, we want to make sure that this is a students' union that's welcome to all its students, and we have to go by the decision that was made last year at AGM. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Stefan, at the front. Pop your headsets on, please, everybody. Stefan will speak in Welsh.
The eagerly anticipated headphones are going back on, and we've had loads of tweets, people loving the headphones.
Steffan Bryn, Swyddog y Gymraeg. Wnaethoch chi sôn mewn ymateb i un o'r cwestiynau blaenorol, nad ydy'r undeb yn erbyn addysg am ddim. Allai ofyn i chi be ydy safbwynt yr undeb am addysg am ddim a ffiau dysgu a gadael cael treiniau peidio? Diolch.
Thank you very much for your question, Stefan. So, Cardiff University Students' Union is affiliated with the National Union of Students. The National Union of Students passed a policy last year at their annual conference saying that they will campaign for free education. Being affiliated with them, of course, we are following them on that stance, and we, of course, encourage our students to campaign for free education. We are part of the NUS Cut the Cost campaign. This is part of a campaign that we got involved with during this summer. The Cut the Cost campaign is against the scrapping of maintenance grants, which the government announced in July this year. And we'll be running several events throughout the year around the Cut the Cost campaign. We will also be going on a demonstration in London to further show our support for this campaign. Are there any other questions?
Can I just remind people these should be questions about the annual report. There is a chance later for any open questions to the trustees. So if there's any more questions about the annual report, please raise your hand. Okay, Claire, if you'd like to move on to the financial report, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your questions.
More questions about the annual report.
The Union is a registered charity and company limited by guarantee. The Union's charitable activities are accounted for through Cardiff University Students' Union, with trading activities being accounted for through Cardiff Union Services Limited. In 2014-15, the Union undertook an appraisal of where income and expenditure should be allocated between Cardiff University Students' Union and Cardiff Union Services Limited, and was adjusted to reflect a more accurate allocation of resources, resulting in a significant increase in income and expenditure within Cardiff University Students' Union last year. In August 2015, the Union completed the restructure of its companies, making Cardiff University Students' Union the sole member of Cardiff Union Services Limited, and thus making Cardiff Union Services Limited a subsidiary company of Cardiff University Students' Union. Therefore, from 2015-16 onwards, the Union's financial activities will be reported as a group and will greater provide openness and transparency in the Union's financial reporting. Cardiff Union Services Limited is the Union's trading company that manages the Union's facilities and commercial services, including venues, retail, catering, advertising and lettings. Up until August 2015, the trustees of Cardiff University Students' Union were also the directors of Cardiff Union Services Limited. Following the change, some of the trustees of Cardiff University Students' Union serve on Cardiff Union Services Limited, but overall, Cardiff Union Services Limited Board of Directors is a smaller and more focused group. Pension deficit. Due to changes in accounting for defined benefit pension obligations, the Union has recognised its future obligations to the Employee Pension Scheme, SUS, amounting to £2.6 million. The Union's obligations will likely to extend to 2030 and will have a dramatic effect on the balance sheet until then. The Welsh language. During 2014-15, the Union spent £19,924 on the Welsh language. These costs were split between translating meetings, Welsh communications and social media, purchasing of translation software and the staff costs for having a member of staff responsible for coordinating bilingual activities. During 2015-16, we have planned for the amount of Welsh language revision to grow considerably as we begin to meet our ambitions laid out within our strategy and further detailed in our Welsh language policy. It is likely that for 2015-16, the Union's expenditure on the Welsh language will be approximately £30,000. I'm now going to move into the financial slides. Sorry, this click is really slow. Okay, so this slide looks at Cardiff University Students' Union accounts for the statement of financial activity. I'll just give everyone a few moments just to digest the information that's on that slide. The next slide looks at Cardiff Union Services Limited profit and loss and balance sheet. You'll notice there is a difference in block grants, and that is because we have moved extra expenditure from Cardiff Union Services Limited to Cardiff University Students' Union. And so we have moved the block grant from one company to the other, and this is because we've had employees moving from being employed by Cardiff University Union Services Limited to Cardiff University Students' Union. Note that we have made a profit of £115,000 before exceptional expenditure. It is a reduction on last year's operating profit and slightly below our budgeted profit for the year. This is a result of our increasing investments in the food court and increased staff members. This is our balance sheet. I described talk at the beginning, so I hope that makes sense. Okay, so now more onto the exciting financial stuff that's slightly easier to digest. So, this looks at Cardiff University Students' Union group income. And you can see here where the Students' Union collates its money from. So we have a block grants, commercial services, membership services, and central services. This slide looks at the group expenditure. We can explore these areas in a little more detail, starting with membership services. Membership services includes activities such as student voice, advice, volunteering, development, employment, and a range of our society and sports activities. So here we are, that's our membership services income. You can see that the majority of it here is from Job Shop. This accounts for all the staff wages, and Job Shop is something we run in conjunction with Cardiff University. Here is our membership services income. So you see it includes Give It To Go, societies, and sports and athletic union. So this is our membership services expenditure. You can see Job Shop looks to be pretty costly there, and that's as a result of how expensive the systems are to put in place for it, and obviously the student wages. And here is the membership services expenditure, split between all the areas that I discussed came under the umbrella of membership services earlier. Now we're going to move on to our commercial services, such as our food, catering, lettings, retail, and nightclub and music events. So you can see here we have our venues, which is like our nightclub and gig events. We have our sales and marketing, which is our advertising, our retail, which are On the ground floor of the Students' Union, we have a range of different retail outlets, and then Cardiff Student Letting, which is our letting agency. And then here we have the commercial services expenditure. Note the difference between income and expenditure, which is reinvested into membership services. So the majority, a lot of the money that is made in Cardiff Union Services Limited is invested back into membership services, which is obviously for student development activities. And then finally, we move on to our central services, the operations of the organisation that support the front-facing services, such as finance, IT, HR, and marketing. And then we move on to central services expenditure. It's worth noting here that facilities looks like a big chunk of this, but it's incredibly expensive just to even open and close this building. So this chunk accounts for the maintenance of the building, that brings me to the end of the financial report. Is there any questions?
Yes, at the front. Can we try and be a little bit quicker than microphones, guys? Sorry.
Yep.
No offence intended.
Hey, so I just want to ask about my name is Ollie. So you mentioned loss of profit being a result of investment in the food court and increase in staff costs, but the food court opened at the beginning of the 14-15 year. The investment of that was 2 years ago, so it can't be that. But I do note that the sales costs are 700,000 less than the year before. Administrative expenses are 600,000 less. So if you've made savings on admin and savings on sales costs, it must be something else. And then I look that turnover for Kusel is almost £1 million down. And I wonder why, given that we've sold our soul to companies like Starbucks, which supposedly... which we were promised in my sub year by the chief exec and the director of commercial services would bring lots of money in. We're £1 million down on the year before. And then I look at interest paid, and I see that the interest payments this year are 36 times the interest payments of the year before. And I wonder what that's about. And I just think we need some clarity as to where the money's gone on interest payments, things like that. And £1 million down?
Thank you for your question, Ollie. So the reason why... The reason why there is such a difference, and I did explain this when I was reading around the finances before I went into the presentation, is because a lot of our income and expenditure is now being shown through Cardiff University Students' Union and not through Kusel. Because areas, for example, like Job Shop and Student Advice, which were previously accounted for through Cardiff Students' Union Limited, are now being accounted through Cardiff University Students' Union.
Any other questions on a financial report?
In regards to interest payments, I'm just going to have a look into that and get back to you. Apologies, I haven't got the data with me. Any other questions?
Yes, at the front, please. Will you be speaking in Welsh, Stefan? If you can pop your headsets on, please, ladies and gents.
Next
just
question
before we start the
Welsh,
question,
so
can I just
it will be
tell you that
addressed
I
in
can
Welsh
happily say we
in the
are
Great
Cora,
Hall.
however,
Yeah,
it is
and
incredibly
speakers will
close,
put
so
on their
please
headsets.
do not leave the room. If you do know anyone else who's on their way, please make sure they get here. But as of this moment in time, we are Cora.
So we've now got enough...
Iawn, allai ofyn ar ddau bwynt, os gwelwch yn dda. Gynta, ar y cyfloga, da ni'n gweld rhwng 2014 a 2015 bod hynna bron a bod wedi dyblu. Mae sôn i chi am y taliadau pensiwn yr angen I ddatgan heini, felly ella bod hynna I gyfri am hynny. Ond fe sôn I chi hefyd yn eich adroddiad ariannol, am y dyhead I fod yn fwy traloio ag agored. Felly, awnewch chi'n rwymo rwan bod cyfloga fesul graddfa, felly faint o staff sydd ganddon ni ar bob graddfa taliad o fewn yr undeb yn cael ei cyhoeddi, naill ai ar wefan yr undeb neu o fewn incwm a gwariant y flwyddyn nesaf, bod hynna ar gael i'r myfyrwyr. Hwna di'r cwestiwn cyntaf, a nes I ddysgu ddoe bod yr undeb yn rhedeg siop trin gwallt yn uniongyrchol. Allwch chi ddeithio ni faint mae'n gostio I redeg y siop yna, a faint o elw mae hwnna'n neud ar gyfer y gwasanaethau, ar gyfer yr aelodau. Sgolwch yn dda, diolch yn fawr.
Thank you for your question, Stefan. So, in regards to the salaries, as I said before, a lot of the salaries now are being accounted for in Cardiff University Students' Union's accounts, because previously they were under Cardiff University Students Limited. In regards to staff salaries, under Companies House, as is from next year, staff that earn over £40,000 a year in a charitable organisation have to announce their earnings. So they will be published online and accessible, but I can say if you are interested in looking specifically at different staff members' salaries, you can look online. A lot of the information is still up there from when the job adverts for roles were up in the past, over the past 5 years, I guess. So yeah, that information will be accessible from next year. In regards to the hair salon, I can't give you the specific figure of how much it costs. That's not something that's kind of touched on in the financial report because that comes under our retail services, but I can get back to you with a figure if that's okay. Thank you for your question.
Any more questions? Yes, can we go to the gentleman in the red, and then can we have a mic ready for the chap at the back who had his hand up in the middle? Can you just keep your hand up?
Right, thanks, Seb again. During the financial report, we talked about I think it's 50 or so grand that goes to the NUS every year. What have we got for that in the past financial year for an organisation that's backed out on free education demos, for an organisation that's backed down on several student rights groups, and actually has no physical presence on campus? So I should add, actually, or any campaigns that are based on campus.
NUS campaigns, yes. Okay, so first of all, we do NUS campaigns. So Cut the Costs is an event, is a campaign that the union are supporting, and we have taken actions with that. We met with Jo Stevens, our local MP, in the summer to get her backing on the campaign and to actively be against the changes to maintenance grants in Parliament, and we have her full support. We've also run a social media campaign around that. Next Tuesday, we'll be backing NUS's campaign of an international student walkout, which is in response to the increasing restrictions to international student visas. So we are massively part of that. And also, we attend national conference for NUS every year. We send representatives to vote on NUS policy, which directly affects all students' unions who are affiliated with NUS. NUS sometimes is difficult to kind of judge what we get from them because a lot of it isn't that tangible. But in terms of lobbying and national campaigns, I do think we are involved. And yes, we can maybe improve. But since I've taken the position of presidency, we've been involved in all NUS campaigns that I have been made aware of. And we are incredibly supportive of NUS. And we want to strengthen that relationship even further. And ahead of the Welsh Assembly elections, we've been working with the National Union of Students for Wales to put together a student manifesto looking at devolved powers and issues that affect students. And we'll be working with Beth Button, the President of NUS Wales, to take that to Welsh Government. And yes, we spend £50,000 a year to be part of NUS, but I think it's really worth it. The lobbying powers they have, the pressure they can put on government, can bring some fantastic outcomes for Cardiff students. And also they provide training to our sabbatical officers, training that allows us to lobby with the university, to know how to work effectively with Welsh Government and put pressure on the national government. I think NUS has some fantastic benefits, and as an officer team, we are incredibly supported to work with them and want to work with them further, and we are involved in their campaigns.
I won't labour the point, but one thing you said was meeting with Jenny Rathbone. Do you know what her voting record on education is?
It wasn't Jenny
Can we
Rathbone,
keep them relevant to...
I do feel it's quite relevant.
Can I just add, it was Joe Stevens.
I'm afraid I'm going to disagree. I'm going to take the next question, I'm afraid.
It was
Thank
Joe
you, sir.
Stevens, the MP for the constituency.
Okay, the student in the middle, please. After his question, we're going to move on to affiliations, as we are just Cora, and I'd like us to be able to pass some business. So, after you, sir.
Thanks very much. Tom Fletcher, second year student. Before I make a fool of myself, am I correct in saying that the university still doesn't pay a living wage for all of its employees in the Students' Union?
Yes, so in the Students' Union, as it currently stands, all our career staff are paid the living wage. So we class career staff, people do this as their full-time purposeful job, and they don't do anything aside from that job. But our student staff, who work here on a part-time basis, aren't paid the living wage as it stands currently. However, we are open to discussion, and AGM would be a great platform for people to bring that to decide what stance we take on that for our student staff. However, it's worth noting that obviously to be able to afford to pay the living wage, we'd have to take money from other services in the Students' Union to afford that.
Okay, I mean, well, the Student Senate voted in 2013 on the Students' Union becomes a living wage employer. And with NUS Wales conducting a survey in 2014 which shows 1 in 3 students do consider dropping out of the university due to the financial difficulties that they face. Do you not see that it's important that the majority of students, majority of people that the SU employs are on their temporary contracts, they are on very small hour contracts, and they are the biggest ones who are affected by this. So surely by paying them more than the minimum wage is actually going to do a lot more for the students at the university.
Thank you for your question there. Yes, I agree. It would be fantastic for all our student staff to be paid the living wage, and as I said, I welcome the discussion here. But we do need to consider that for us to be able to afford to pay the living wage, we will have to cut money from other services within the Students' Union.
Okay, I don't want to sound like it as personal attack, but we've elected officers on, I think, in excess of £20,000 a year. Can we get some perspective here? You know, there are people who are still doing the degrees, battling to go with a degree and to pay for all the expenses, being paid minimum wage, and then you're walking from your degree or taking a sabbatical to do this, where you're being paid in excess of £20,000. It's an excessive amount for you to just walk out of university and be paid that much. But when you're doing your degree and working at the same time, you're paid a pittance. Maybe the money could come from wages elsewhere, possibly.
Thank you for your question. Yes, I understand that, but as I said before, we need to look into avenues potentially where we could get this money from, but I think the reality is that it would have to be cut from another funding of services in the Students' Union. But as I said, I welcome this discussion here, and if it's a decision that the annual general meeting wants to take, then of course we would support that as elected officers.
Thank you, ladies and gents. Anyone who's still got their hands up, we're going to move on now, but there will be an opportunity to ask your questions in the open questions to trustees that we'll come to later on. Just wary of courtesy, we're going to move on to item 5 on your agendas, the Students' Union's affiliations. Thank you, Claire.
So the tweets have been flooding in. We've had quite a lot of tweets from people in the room at the moment, but encouraging our viewers to get involved with the hashtag Cardiff AGM. Let us know what you think about what's been going on over the past half an hour or so.
Okay, so the headline affiliations for this year are NUS, the National Union of Students, and this current year we pay £51,930.40 for the affiliation. The second one is to Bucks, British University and College Sports, and that affiliation cost is £15,180.08. So just need to ask you to vote to say whether you are happy or not happy to continue with these affiliations for the year. So if I can ask anyone who is happy to continue to affiliate to NUS and Bucks, please raise your green cards nice and high in the air for me. Okay, thank you. And anyone like against? And any abstentions?
A very high number
Thank you very much. That's clearly
4 votes there. I think we only had 1 person that was against that. The
Okay, so we're now going to move straight
raised a lot of questions in a red
the
shirt in the middle.
Motions, and we delay the minutes and the open questions So if I can just run through the procedure for anyone who is new to AGM, just so you know how we're going to carry out this part of the meeting. So we will debate each motion one at a time. We start with a speech from the proposer of the motion. I'll then ask if anyone would like to make a speech against the motion. If there is then demand for further round of speeches, they can be made available, after which we will ask for any questions to the proposer, and then that will be followed by general debate. Finally, we will then vote to see whether the motion passes or fails. If you wish to speak at any time, again, raise your hand. If you can keep your hands raised, then I can try and let the people with the mics know, multiple people, so we can get through it nice and quickly. But without further ado, we're going to go to motion number 1, support for student parents. So if I can invite Madeline Page to the stage, please. You'll have 4 minutes to speak, Maddie.
On Twitter, so thank you for bringing your tweets in. We're going to start off with the first motion now.
I'll let you know when you have 20 seconds left.
Shemai, hello. I'm here today to talk to you about a group so marginalised that you probably haven't given them much consideration before. More than 54% of this group have debts other than student loans. 77% of them work to cover their basic living costs, and only 22% feel it's easy to get involved in university life, while most feel isolated and alone. So who are these students? These are not required to audit the parental status of students. Therefore, the number of student parents is actually unknown. However, in a 2005 research report found that in Wales, 38% of part-time students and 6% of full-time students were parents. However, student retention rates for parents are very low, with over 60% in an NUS survey saying they've thought about leaving their course. With this motion, I aim to make life just a little bit easier for student parents so they can focus on having an amazing university experience. One of the main difficulties for student parents is childcare. There is currently a creche on Park Place, however it costs over £23 for just half a day. Therefore, I propose that the SU petition the university to implement pricing tiers. There are also plans in place for a creche at the Heath campus, and this should be fully supported beyond the full-time and campaign officer team's time here in office. The effects of more accessible childcare will mean that parents are more likely to be able to afford care and spend less time in work and more time studying. Emergency care will also be easier to find and more affordable, and therefore the dropout rate will decrease, and the current rate of 50% of student parents not attending lectures due to problems with childcare will also decrease. Another important feature that this motion aims to resolve is the lack of information available to student parents. There needs to be a dedicated area on both the Students' Union website and the Cardiff University website that gives student parents important and accurate information, including the financial support that's available to them, child-friendly events that take place, a network of student parents that they can speak to, available childcare, and other support that the university offers. Over 87% of student parents have said that no one at their university spoke to them about childcare options, and over 77% do not feel it's easy to get involved in university life as a student parent. In February of this year, the university released a student parent policy stating that Cardiff University believes that becoming pregnant, adopting, or caring for a child should not in itself be a barrier to applying for, starting, or succeeding in a programme of study. However, as can clearly be seen by the thorough NUS report and other independent reports, this is just not the case. I understand that this motion is very heavy on statistics, but I encourage you to please read it thoroughly, as they can be quite shocking, and I hope that you'll see that the welfare of the student parents here at Cardiff University really needs to be improved. Thank you for your time and support. Diolch.
That was Madeleine Page with motion 1 to support student parents.
Thank you, Madeline. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion?
To look at the statistics.
Yes, at the front,
regarding
please.
these motions, because she said they could be quite shocking.
We've got someone being very bold here, and they're actually coming up to the front to speak against the motion. I don't think he understands that you're meant to stay in your seat.
If you can state your name for the minutes, and you'll have 4 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 20 seconds left.
My name is Lucas, and before I get lynched, I'd like to quickly say I'm in favour of providing more support for student parents. I'm not against this motion, but I'm against it in its current form. I honestly think that it should be postponed by a year or two until we have more accurate data and statistics on the issue. Firstly, I'd like to thank Madeline on proposing this motion because it does raise awareness on a very marginalised group of people. But secondly, she also said that it's very heavy on statistics. But the statistics we have at the moment are very inaccurate. If you read through the references, as I have done myself, she cites the National Student Income and Expenditure Survey. That's the only real study or survey we have to see how many student parents we have in Cardiff. And it's over a decade old and takes into account all Welsh universities, not Cardiff. So if you actually want to implement changes to this university to provide support for student parents, we have to see how to get a representative sample and see how many people are actually going to be catering for. Secondly, this motion contains contradictory references. So if you look at I think it's the AGM believes section point number 7 says that lone student parents are the poorest. However, that's according to the NUS study that Madeline cited. But according to the National Student Income and Expenditure Survey, lone student parents have the highest income. So, but because it's such a vague area with regards to the statistics, we need to actually delve further, provide more surveys, and actually gauge exactly how many people we're going to be catering for, so we can then understand to what extent we're going to be implementing these changes as set out by this motion. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's actually against the way that the motion is phrased there. The statistics aren't
If there's demand for another round of speeches, I need someone for
correct
and against. So do I see someone for the
against
motion?
was saying there?
Okay, and do I see anyone against the motion? No. Okay, we have to move to questions to the proposer. So Madeline, if you'd like to come to the stage again, please. And please raise your hand if you have any questions for Madeline.
Okay, so what we established there is that a lot of the facts coming out of our packets here are actually from all of the universities in Cardiff, not just Cardiff itself.
Yes, at the front, please.
So we've got some questions now for the proposer.
Hi, Katie Beggan, VB Heath Park. Just for clarification, am I allowed to clarify or ask a question? Which one?
Yes, you may ask a clarification or a question.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so am I right in thinking how many different sources are there in this?
More than one, more than just the NUS.
More than one, and they're spanning over a decade. So would that imply that the problem is continuous and is still going on and there's not enough data in that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No, okay, thank you, Madeline. You may leave the stage. And we now go to general discussion. So if you'd like to raise any further points, any new points, either for or against the motion, please raise your hand. Okay, we'll start the student in the green t-shirt in the middle, please.
Hiya, Zoe from Green Price Society. Basically, I think we got enough statistics. What we're saying is we want support for parents. I don't understand how we can dispute lack of support. I think we should totally support the motion, because why wouldn't we? You know, it's in everyone's best interest to actually have the university there to offer support. So I just think it's a no-brainer, basically.
Thank you. Any further questions? Yes, please. Student here in the blue shirt, please. And then we're going to go to the student at the front in the grey afterwards.
If you look at the AGM results section, it says that we should provide child-safe areas, creches, and also children's toys. Now, once again, I'm completely in favour of this, but to what extent are we going to provide these facilities? How big should they be? How many toys should we get? It's things like that. So by gauging exactly how many people we're going to be catering for, via these more accurate statistics, then we can actually implement more effective changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Student at the front in the grey.
Hi, Matthew Jenkins. The first point would be coming back on that, well, for one thing, we don't have the statistics yet because we don't take any information off these students. One of the things AGM resolves, if you look at point 4 AGM resolves, Cardiff University Students' Union should collect data on parental status of students. That is getting more data. We don't have the data yet, and we don't have it because we don't have the mechanisms yet. This is trying to resolve that. And then coming back on that other point you made about to what extent we should do this. Well, this is an ongoing policy. Do you want us to write down the number of toys we're going to buy in an AGM motion? This is about what the policy of the union should be.
Thank you. Was there a hand up in the middle? Student blue shirt? No? Yes, please, in the middle. If anyone has got any further points, please keep your hand in the air, just makes my life a little bit easier. Thank you.
For those opposed, why are you treating this as an issue of numbers, purely statistical numbers, when this is a human issue which affects people's lives? Surely Cardiff University is a principal university that it is, and so high ranking should be there to support people most in need. No matter if it's not particularly proven and there's no objective truth, there are parents out there who are students who are struggling, so surely they deserve the support mechanisms necessary.
Thank you. Any further points? No? Okay, we'll move to summation. So, Maddie, if you'd like to summate, you have 2 minutes if you come to the stage, please.
So a lot of the questions there that we had were mainly about the argument between, is it about statistics and numbers between this sort of thing, or should Cardiff actually be looking at the human problem? It's not necessarily just about the numbers of how much it costs things out. We should be focusing on the problem itself rather than getting into the nitty-gritty, if you will.
I think it's a fairly clear answer here. In terms of the opposition saying there's not enough information, that's exactly the point. There isn't enough information. Thanks. So we need to pass this motion because there are students out there who are parents who have no help. We need to give them that welfare support. Thank you.
Madeline Page that summarised her motion.
Okay, we move on to the vote. So if I can ask all those in favour of passing the motion to raise their cards, please.
Okay,
And any against, please? And finally, any abstentions?
2 against.
And motion clearly passes.
4 interventions. So,
motion 1 clearly passed then?
Yep.
Okay, so we move to the second motion, which is compulsory mental health training for personal tutors and research supervisors. If I can ask Kate Delaney, the proposer, to come to the stage, please.
Okay, yeah, so motion 2 is just about to start now. Remember to tweet us in using hashtag AGM, Cardiff AGM, so
Just
you can get your voice
reminder,
across.
please do stay in the room. It is still very tight
Kate
on numbers.
Delaney, Vice President of Welfare, who is coming onto the stage.
1 in 4 people experience mental health problems, and 9 in 10 of those people experience some form of stigma or discrimination because of it. You just have to take a look around the room to all know how stressful and how hard university can be, and that often admitting that you need help can be really difficult. And I hope this motion will make perspective. Just look down your row and think about how many people that means. We all know how stressful and how hard university can be, and that often admitting that you need help can be really difficult. And I hope this motion will make this process easier. As I've noted in the motion, personal tutors and research supervisors can often be the first point of contact for students experiencing mental health problems or who just need more support. I want to make sure that personal tutors are equipped correctly with the right information and the right knowledge of mental health. Without this, the way personal tutors or research supervisors approach the topic of mental health, if they do at all, will not be consistent and could potentially be uninformed. That is not their problem to deal with. Instead, implementing compulsory and consistent training across the risk that students, because they may not know how best to talk about it, could accidentally say the wrong thing, would give students better and quicker support from beginning to end. We need to make sure that personal tutors and research supervisors have the right tools to be able to talk about mental health in an appropriate and supportive way. Just simply knowing how to discuss mental health and what not to say can be extremely helpful for students in this situation. Also, with this training, a larger conversation about mental health can be started across the whole university, helping to reduce stigma, reassuring that students can ask for help, and also generally encouraging them to be more open and honest about these experiences, which is exactly why I brought the motion here today. This isn't about them becoming advisors or counsellors, it's about us ensuring that they are the best equipped personal tutors and research supervisors they can be. It's about acknowledging that understanding mental health needs to be a fundamental requirement for personal tutors and research supervisors, who, as we know, are members of staff that the student is likely to have the most contact with, and are the only members of staff in the university that students must have contact with.
Although mental health awareness and understanding has improved a lot over recent years, with both the SU and the university signing the Time to Change pledge, there's still more that can be done, and this would be an excellent step in the right direction. This motion will continue to work towards fostering an environment where it's okay to talk about mental health, and it's okay to ask for help. And when you do, you'll get it with the right person at the right time, no matter what you study. I implore you to support this motion to equip myself and Katie Kelly, Vice President Postgraduate, with the backing of AGM to take this to university and work with them collaboratively to implement the training in the best way for our institution. Thank you.
So that was Katie Delaney, Vice President of Welfare, hoping to pass the motion to give compulsory
Thank you,
mental
Kate.
health
Do I see
training
a
to
speaker
personal
against the
tutors.
motion? Yes, the student in the middle with the grey shirt. Would you like to come to the stage, please? You have 4 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 20 seconds left.
Okay, so I don't really like this motion for 3 reasons. First is that I don't agree with it necessarily. Second is I don't think it was ever going to happen. And the third is that I think the motions like this are a bit embarrassing. So the first, I don't agree with it. So I don't agree that personal tutors are there to do this sort of thing. I don't agree with that because, as you said, it's not about making personal tutors kind of counsellors or whatever, or making them give advice to people. It's about them signposting. And inherent in the motion is an assumption that personal tutors don't already do that. Don't already do that. Well, there might be some that don't already do that, but then there are also some that kind of don't email their students at the beginning of every year. In my opinion, those people probably shouldn't be personal tutors, or should just attend the training that personal tutors already get, which, if enforced properly, they would be doing it already. And I don't agree with it because I think if you're just giving specific mental health training to personal tutors, you're spending a lot of money to make them signpost them to student counselling, which they should be doing anyway. Like, I just think of when I was here listening to the counselling service about their waiting times they've got, how under-resourced they are, and I think of all the money you're going to spend for personal tutors for nigh on 30,000 students to kind of go on these training courses, I just think that money is far better spent, investing in the counselling service, giving them proper premises rather than crappy buildings like they've got at the Heath, giving them actual more counsellors so that counsellors aren't having to do things over 2 campuses and things like that, putting money into the counselling service rather than paying for personal tutors to do something that the current training, if enforced properly, already makes them do. Second, I don't think it will happen. I don't think it will happen because I know that in my SAB year and last SAB year, there was already a review on personal tutors. And the university were going to get rid of personal tutors altogether because the university doesn't think intrinsically that personal tutors should be getting involved in mental health issues. I don't think they should either because I think, frankly, probably my PhD supervisor might, for example, do a lot more harm to my mental health than actually good, because she's not a mental health professional. She hasn't done a psychology degree or a master's in clinical psychology or anything like that. This is why the university thinks that actually they shouldn't be giving this sort of advice, which is why last year the university was going to get rid of personal tutors altogether and just have academic advisors. We opposed that, and the Students' Union approved and agreed and signed the new personal tutor system, and now the Students' Union is just turning around and saying, actually, we don't like that. There's no consistency with the Students' Union's opinion on personal tutors if we do this. And the third reason motions like this are just embarrassing. It's embarrassing because what we have, without wanting to sound rude, is a motion proposed by a sabbatical officer and seconded by a sabbatical officer. And the 3 resolves are to mandate, to mandate, to mandate. You already have a mandate. You have been elected to represent students. You've been elected to lobby the university on an issue of your choice and on issues in your manifestos. You don't need any further mandate from AGM, and this is going on our policy book for 3 years. This is a public document that says people we've been elected to represent us, people we've already given a mandate to, have brought something to their AGM to get a further mandate. Either you feel like our election system is inadequate, in which case, strong position to hold as an elected officer, or this is just some sort of PR exercise. And that, for me, is just embarrassing. It's embarrassing when SABs bring things to AGM to say, mandate
20
me to
seconds,
do something.
please.
Look how busy I'm being, look how good I am.
I don't wish to be rude, but AGM is not a PR exercise. It is a serious thing. Take it seriously.
Very strong opinions there. What do you think? How about you tweet us in?
Thank you. I'd like to see if there's demand for any more
speeches.
speeches. So there's another speaker for. And do we have another speaker against? Okay. Gentleman here for, and the student, if you'd like to come and wait by the edge of the stage to speak against. You will have 2 minutes to speak for the motion. Again, I'll let you know when you have 20 seconds left.
Lovely, thank you. Right, the 3 points you raised. First, you don't agree with the motion. So first of all, look at the AGM notes point 6. There is a code of practice with personal tutors which states personal tutors will often be the first point of contact for students experiencing difficulties, and an important part of the role is to listen and give advice in a sensitive and appropriate manner. This is very important. I mean, we've already said this is the role of personal tutors, to look after their students. To say, oh, they're only doing that as academic advisors. That's what your lecturers are for. Your personal tutors are there to support you in your whole university experience. Second point, you said it won't happen. Thank you, I'm short on time. That you said it won't happen. This is mandating for the discussion to take place with the university. If this comes down to a compromise, I want all of our cards on the table so we get the best answer for students. Saying, oh, we won't get the best possible outcome. We don't necessarily need the best possible outcome. We want the best outcome for students, and that will come out of a compromise where we have got an AGM mandate. This is coming into the third point. You said it's embarrassing that we're bringing in an AGM mandate to mandate our officers on one of their campaign points. Well, those campaign points are one aspect they were elected on. To then take that to the university, say, oh, this is one thing I was elected on. Say, well, it's not your whole policy. They can then turn around and say, well, you have that mandate, but it's not as strong a mandate. The AGM is the strongest body we have for manipulating the university, and that is probably the right word. Patricia Price will now be sat at home watching me speaking into a microphone. I mean,
20
this
seconds.
is the most powerful body we have, and we should be using it to try and force the university to give the best outcome for its students, and that includes giving this training for the personal tutors. Thank you.
So this one's not going to be as clear cut as our first motion, but it'll be interesting to see what our next student's going to speak about.
Again, you have 2 minutes, and I'll let you know in 20 seconds. Please state your name before you speak.
This motion.
Good evening. Well, first off, I just get it out there that I have had mental health issues over the last few years of being at Cardiff, and so you may wonder why I'm actually opposing the motion. I hope I will not appear like a turkey voting for Christmas doing this. First off, why I oppose the motion is that I have found staff within my academic school more than supportive as they already are, and what you're asking them to do is a use of their time, which could be better used for teaching. I already know, from talking to lecturers, talking to personal tutors, they already have so many obligations to do administrative tasks and lots of other things. They don't just sit marking papers, they don't just sit doing research. In fact, they'd like to do a lot more. I also think you have to also look at the funding for this. Surely, and I agree with the first opposer of this, that surely money would be far better pumped into the pre-existing student support network and therapists. In fact, I don't think the personal tutor's job should really be as a psychoanalyst or a psychotherapist. It's asking far too much of them. I think that their role surely should be, obviously don't ignore anything and to raise any issues, but to send students to the student support services. And that surely perhaps the issue here is underfunding to the student support network, and that there should be an improvement in the service there. I think you're asking a lot from personal tutors to really discuss these issues. Some maybe more than others, but also, I mean, there is also, of course, the issue of if they do more bad than good.
20 seconds.
Well, about practice, but I believe that's already covered. And I think that surely we should be focusing more on putting money into the student counselling service rather than just giving, personal tutors more work to do. Thank you.
I'm happy to take another round of speeches if there's demand. So is there another speaker for the motion? Thank you. Student in the red, is there another speaker against the motion? Okay, thank you. Please come to the stage.
We have yet another speaker, both for and against the second motion, which is compulsory mental health.
Just a quick
training for
reminder,
personnel,
please,
teachers
everyone,
and
about
research
conduct on Twitter.
supervisors.
Try and
Seems
keep
to
it
be
nice and
quite,
friendly, please.
a debated topic.
Yeah, you got 2 minutes. Please state your name.
Hi guys, my name's Seb, and I like talking lots, try and get it as brief as I can. I'm very much for the motion, and in response to this 3 points, I'm going to make a few. The first one is that, why should you train personal tutors? The reality is that for a lot of first years, including someone who I was in this position in first year, personal tutors are the big friendly face that you see at Cardiff. They are the person who you can go to for not just academic support, but when you have a problem with your administration, when you have a problem with just needing to get stuff done, they are the friendly face of Cardiff University to you. So if you're a first year experiencing a mental health disorder, especially if it's a new thing for you, that friendly face is incredibly useful and will often be something you're very happy to go to. If you have a personal tutor with absolutely basic, even basic psychological training, they will be able to act in a more appropriate manner, help the students in a better way, and more than that actually, you'll get a lot of students with mental health problems who will not be either A, aware that they have them, or they won't be willing to come forward. And if you can have a personal tutor who's able to recognise these signs, they're able to deal with the first years in a much better way. Hang on a sec. Yeah. The issue of whether they should just signpost them to university, that is not a good idea. If all you say to a first year who presents with you, or anyone who presents a mental health disorder is, you should go see a counsellor, I'm not going to talk to you about this, A, it's a very good chance of alienating people, and on top of that, there's a very good chance that they're simply not going to do it, which leads to a load of people with mental health disorders not getting the assistance they need in Cardiff Uni. Last thing I was going to say is, I'm finding a lot of the objections to this seem to be based around the funding that could be put somewhere else.
Okay, so I need to stop. We've received a procedural motion, and the procedural motion is asking us to take it to a vote.
Thank you, guys.
Motion 2 is now being asked to take to a vote.
Do we have a seconder for the procedural motion? Okay, thank you. Can you just state your name for the minutes? Thank you. And can the proposer please come to the stage? You have 2 minutes to speak for your procedural motion.
Yeah.
Come to the stage, please.
Another opposer coming up. This one's not as clear cut as our first motion. Gary has done a poll on Twitter.
You have 2 minutes. Please state your name and I'll let you know you have 20 seconds left.
Hi, my name is Reece Jenkins. I put the procedural motion in, not realising I had to speak straight away. But just to say, I think from the feeling of the room, that we already kind of had an idea of where this motion was going, and I thought in the interests of time and in the interest of everyone, we could go back and forth. There's similar issues being raised each time about the importance of personal tutors and the importance of mental health training, but then the difficulty with personal tutors also being counsellors, which they're not, and that's not the idea of the motion as far as I saw. So I thought it's a good time to take the vote, which is why I suggested the procedural motion. Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone would
was,
like to speak against the procedural motion, please raise your hand.
He wanted the motion to go to a vote, as he thought that there were the
so
same
we're
opinions
voting
being voiced
Someone
over
at the back?
and over.
Did you want to speak against? No? Okay, so just to be clear, you're voting on a procedural motion. So if you're voting in favour, you're saying you'd like us to take it straight to a vote. And if you're voting against, you'd like to continue the debate.
And I'm
so
voting
all those
whether
in
to
favour of the
have more
procedural motion, please
speakers
raise your cards.
or to...
Thank you very much. Those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Procedural motion passes. We go straight to
The
a
people
vote.
in the hall have
So
clearly
we're now
said that
voting
they want to
on
go
whether the
straight
motion
to a
passes or
vote.
fails. All those in favour of passing the motion, please raise your cards. All those against? Any abstentions? Can I just ask all those who voted for to please raise your cards again, keep them nice and high for me. And all those against? And any abstentions? Motion passes, thank you.
Well, that was a tight one there. Let's have a recount. But no, that's the second motion of the night, second one passed.
Second motion passed, but definitely not as clear and obvious as the first one. Moving on to the third motion now, which is about Cardiff University investing in fossil fuels. And this has been quite debated recently in Gower-quiroga and student media at Cardiff University.
Thank you, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, AGM. We're all acutely aware of the significant threat that unfettered consumption of fossil fuels poses to our society and to our planet. The scientific community is clear on two key things. Fossil fuels will be totally unviable by 2050, and that its continued use until that point will destroy ecosystems, wreck our climate, and stifle the growth of alternatives. We will undoubtedly see the end of fossil fuel use during our lifetime, be that from depletion or the conscious use of alternatives. This evening we have the opportunity as a student body and the highest decision-making authority within the union to stand up and campaign for the latter. Only today, The Guardian revealed that the UK government provides subsidies of approximately £5.9 billion, only marginally less than the investments made by UK universities. We are the only G7 country to continue to invest additional funds in fossil fuels. We're slashing domestic expenditure in wind farms, which will drive up both bills and emissions. All this while universities are using our tuition fees to fund the continued exploitation of the planet. With record temperatures this autumn in Wales, never before has this issue been more important. Going around and talking to people on campus recently, I've seen the commitment of societies such as People and Planet, hanging banners on the SU and lying in fake crude, Guy Reef and its essential reportage on this key issue, and everyday students who are concerned about where their tuition fees are going. To change this, we must act now, and we must act together as a student body tonight at the AGM. Give me and the elected officers a mandate and an impetus to lobby the university. You can have your voice heard, and I want the SU to be the mouthpiece. Upwards of 28,000 students have the right to a voice on this vital issue, and with your support, your officers can bring this to the forefront to the university's agenda and attention. Together we can end these destructive practices and bring substantive and essential change to our university, becoming the first in Wales to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Do I see someone to speak against the motion? There's a student at the back raising a hat. Would you like to come to the stage, please?
We have a student speaking against the third motion.
It's going to go wild for this one. People the hat.
Keep tweeting us with the hashtag CardiffAGM.
Okay, you have 4 minutes. Whenever you're ready, I'll let you know when you have 20 seconds remaining. Please state your name before you start speaking.
Hello, I'm Gower Shipsides. I'm a mechanical engineering student. My concern with this actually is research. Unfortunately, I'll be honest, I'm horrified by climate change. It's frankly going to devastate the world unless we're very careful. But there's a problem. 85% of our electricity comes from non-renewable sources. 97% of our total electricity comes from non-renewable. To be honest, it takes about 20 years to go from start to finish on something like a wind farm. It's 20 years plus, which is a problem. It means the next, even if we suddenly tomorrow decided no more non-renewable, none of that, we're going to go full renewable, it's 20 years. Now, an awful lot of the research that goes on in this university, particularly within mechanical engineering, is spending money on how we develop efficiencies. And that's where our money's going. In terms of non-renewables, it's not about using more of it, how do we make better use of what we've got? Things like we use an awful lot of jet engines for powering our electricity. I think it's about 20%. That's what gas is. You can do an awful lot of work that's going on within the university at the moment to improve efficiencies. And so that's my concern, is this motion going to stifle that research, which actually is important, because we're stuck with non-renewables for quite a long time. And yes, I desperately want things to change, but we've got a minimum of 20 years of this left. We need to spend time investing in improving efficiency, because, to be honest, that's one very good way of reducing consumption of fossil fuels overall. So that's my concern, really. It's just purely one of, I think we need to continue to research methods of how we can improve efficiency, because that's where our money's going in terms of this.
Thank you. Do we have another speaker for the motion? Okay, at the front. And do we have a speaker against the motion? Right at the back. The gentleman there with your hand, yes please. Both speakers please come to the stage. For the motion first, and against the motion please wait at the side of the stage.
Now we have another speaker up on the stage who is going to be for the motion.
You'll have 2 minutes to speak, and I'll let you know when you have 20 seconds remaining in your own time.
Thank you. I'm Usman, Vice President of the Debating Society and Student Senator. Right, there are a few problems, yes. The argument very much comes down to using dirty money to fund this stuff, blah, 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 blah. It's the same crappy arguments I hear in different debating tournaments, so that point is absolutely mute. I think Dan Tucker posted a article on his Facebook saying that 50% of all world's energy is now renewable. And here's the thing. By removing this barrier, you're essentially forcing the university to say, look, we've got to start looking at these renewable energies. By investing in fossil fuels, you're kind of tacitly, at the very least, saying, you know what, carry on, you're doing it, but it's all right, because it's all for a good cause. That's a load of crap. Let's be honest with that, ladies and gentlemen. Secondly, here's the point. We are living in a very, very horrible time. Climate change is a security threat, not just for any nation, but for the whole world, right? This is an issue we have to tackle right now. So if you want to focus on and completely say, oh, well, you know, you're going to get investment cuts and all that kind of crap, governments will actually wake up and say, this is not what people want, okay? This is not going to attract votes, blah, blah. But as a student body, at the very least, as a young generation voice, we can say, look, this is what we want, do it or don't, okay? This is what it's doing. We were actually putting the pressure through, and rather than just saying, you know, this black money thing. Other than that, I was hoping not for a debate, but thank you very much for that. That's not a very short speech.
So I have a speaker there saying that this is much more of a bigger issue than just the union, but we should be a voice for that. So we've got someone else coming up.
Once again, you have 2 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 20 seconds left. Just
see
before
where
you
this
speak,
goes.
a quick reminder, a couple of people have trickled out of the room. We are only just still quorate, so another plea from me, please remain in your seats. We've nearly made it. Stick with us, please.
Hello, I'm Aled, and I'm an exploration geologist. Firstly, I have grave concerns about this motion, mainly is because the effect it's going to have on my degree and my department. In the motion, it says that the university is investing and profiting from $2 million in the fossil fuel industry. But is that investment towards research for efficiencies, as the previous gentleman said? Because Cardiff research in oil has led to a direct impact across the industry, world-leading research in faulting of cap rocks. This has led to efficiencies in extraction and mitigating risk analysis. So in effect, Cardiff University has increased the efficiency for the extraction of oil, which then means that there's less chance of using risky ways of extracting oil, such as Deepwater Horizon, as we all know. Now, we're all passionate for climate change, but the emphasis needs to be on efficiency, and I feel that this motion needs to be more about not what we can do to stop fossil fuels, but what we can do more for renewables. For instance, why isn't the university doing more for renewables in Wales? For instance, the Swansea Tidal Lagoon, which is a great renewable source, which is still being hindered. The Severn Barrage, for instance, why is the university not investing money into research for that? And I feel that this should be more towards increasing investment for renewables to find a solution
20
for us
seconds.
all, instead of taking away something that we all need and live without. For instance, I'm sure everyone's got a smartphone and a laptop, and the inconvenient truth is that came from oil. Thank you. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Yeah, very good point there. So we also
okay,
have
I'm happy to take one more round of
speeches
speeches if there is the demand. So
a
speaker 4. Yes, the student in the back in the middle.
We've got enough
Do we have a
people to
speaker
vote.
against? Yes, please, in the middle as well.
And we still have another for and against to talk, 2 minutes each, so we'll see what they've got to say. One is making their way up to the stage now, just after we hear from Kate Delaney again. So, what are your thoughts on this? Tweet us in at Cardiff, #CardiffAGM. We're also live on YouTube, so if you're hearing this, you already know that.
Please state your name before you start speaking.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura. Interestingly, I'm here as a geology student as well, so a bit controversial. We are the generation that has to put up with climate change. We're the generation that has to make a change in the world, and we have to stand up for what we believe. We have to say to people we're not happy to continue to let global temperatures escalate. We're going to be putting more and more people at risk, particularly in less developed countries. It's not fair that we should be doing that. This is our opportunity to stand up to people in power and say, no, we don't want fossil fuels. We want to see something positive for the future, something going forwards. I understand that it might be good for industry to be more efficient, but as a group of students, we should have ideals and dreams that we want. And for me, having a future that we can be confident in, resources for the future, green, sustainable electricity, and a world that it's healthy for people to live in because of suitable temperatures and environments that aren't changing. That's important. It's disappointing to hear that people getting bogged down in the nitty-gritties of fuel-efficient engines and stuff in a debate like this, because this is about what we want to achieve as a group of students. I'm really excited that this has been brought to AGM. I'm here as a kayaker, not here to express my views about this, but I decided to stand up and talk because we all have the opportunity to express our views. And climate change is something that I don't think we can deny any longer, and we can pretend that isn't our problem.
Another strong argument there.
Thank you.
We've got our opposing argument, 2 minutes on the clock.
Hi, my name is Lucas. I'm a chemistry student, and I'd like to live in a stance of not being totally against the investment of green energy. Obviously, not being a good thing. If you invest money in things like solar and wind, that's obviously a good thing. But I'm against the total cessation of investment in fossil fuel companies, as is stated in the motion. Now, this is because, well, essentially, there's a monopoly on the oil industry, known as the Seven Sisters. And from a business point of view, we all know there's a finite amount of fossil fuel in the earth. So it makes sense to look to a post-fossil fuel era. That's exactly what these companies are doing. So if you look at BP, for example, they've constructed one of the largest ethanol-producing facilities in Brazil, producing 500 million litres of ethanol. Furthermore, they co-generate electricity from the waste product. Now that's BP. If we invest in technology like that, that is something you want to invest in. Furthermore, Shell, they are investing in hydrogen fuel, they're investing in natural gas. Now, for clarification, natural gas produces 29 to 44% less carbon dioxide per joule of energy than oil and coal counterparts. That is something you want to invest in. It's cleaner, it's more efficient. We're looking to a post-fossil fuel era, okay?
Can we let the gentleman finish, please?
Yeah. I think that's what I've written down so far. But yeah, on a side note as well, just for context, fossil fuels actually contribute just over 40% of greenhouse gas emissions. So the majority of it doesn't even come from fossil fuels, it comes from things like agriculture. So a much more efficient motion would be perhaps to propose that we boycott all meat products in the SU. So, thank you.
Thank you. Still quite a few hands flying up, so do we have another speaker for the motion? Yes, the gentleman in the middle waving. And do we have a speaker against? Yes, please. The student holding up the paper.
Okay, so we've got another for and against argument, so that's a third section. It's the return of the controversial speaker from motion number 2. No?
Okay, you have 2 minutes whenever you're ready.
Okay, I just want to say, through my educational background, doing an undergraduate degree in geography and now studying sustainability planning and environmental policy, climate change is something that we cannot ignore. The Earth is literally baking. In the last 14 years of this millennium, it has been the hottest on record. And to touch on this, someone said earlier that we need a 20-year transition or so where we need to still use fossil fuels. We do not have that time. 97% of scientists agree
that dangerous climate change will occur if temperatures rise 2 degrees above pre-industrial levels. We are currently this year have just surpassed 1 degree. We do not have the time. We do not have the time to continue to burn fossil fuels and condone our future generations to abstract poverty which it will cause, and millions of environmental refugees and your future generations. We cannot do that. It's absolutely wrong. We need to promote a sustainable society which looks after the planet and the welfare of our people. I'm completely against fossil fuels.
That was
okay, we're going to have to hold there for a
motion,
minute. We've had another procedural motion asking us whether we want to go to a vote.
And yet again,
Do we have a seconder for the
the
procedural
student has said that they want to go to a
Okay,
vote.
Thank you. Would the proposer like to speak for their procedural motion? Ollie, would you like to speak? Okay, come to the stage, please. Would you like to come to the stage and say any more? Would anyone like to speak against? Okay, yeah, come speak against, please. You're speaking against the procedural motion, to be clear, not speaking against the motion. You have 2 minutes.
I'm going to make it very short and very quick. Just what I hear, I find it embarrassing that you find that we need to hurry this up and speed it up when you're the person who is saying that we need to take this seriously. Thank you.
Seems like shots have been fired in the Grey Hall.
Twitter's going to explode on that.
Okay, so we're voting on the procedural motion. So all those wishing to pass the motion, which will send us straight to a
The
vote,
Great Hall is now
please raise
voting
your
whether or not
cards.
they want to vote or have more speakers.
All against, please raise your cards. Any abstentions? Okay, procedural motion passes. Okay, so we're now voting on the motion. All those in favour of passing the motion, please raise your cards. All those against? Any abstentions? Motion passes, thank you.
3 out of 3, a hat-trick for the AGM. All 3 motions have been passed.
So the last one there was.
Thank you very much for all
that,
staying with us. There's a couple of things we need to do that we
the
skipped earlier
university
on.
is
So I'd like to go
currently
to
investing in
agenda item number 2,
profiting
the
from putting money
ratification of minutes
into
of the
fossil
previous
fuels.
meetings. You can find them on
the FU
page
has
2
now
of your packs.
said that they want to be
I'll go
against
through
that.
them a page at a time. If you have any corrections or questions you'd like to raise, please raise your hand.
Because we skipped them earlier, we're actually going to go
Starting with
back
the
through
first
last
page of the
year's minutes.
Any corrections or questions? If you can please stay, this is the last thing we need the numbers in the room to pass. The rest of it we can do if you have to leave. Any questions on page 2 of the minutes?
People are desperately trying to flood
Page
out.
3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6 of the minutes. Page 7. Yes, please. Can we bring a microphone for the student in the front, please?
Just about halfway down, it says that Michaela Blackwell said something about Catholic metaphysics, and that was me, unfortunately. Matthew Jenkins. Yeah. That's
Okay,
the
we have the transcript, so we'll check that for you. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay, just one error there.
Any questions on page 7 in the minutes? Page 8. Page 9. 10. Yes, please, in the middle, in the red.
Hello, I was the speaker, Duncan Lee, against the motion. You've spelled my name wrong. And the other person who spoke against the motion, you've spelled her name wrong as well.
Okay, can you email those names to agm@cardiff.ac.uk and we'll make sure we correct those for
Okay,
you.
so some spelling errors that we've checked through there.
It was not me that wrote the names, I do apologise.
We'll keep going through last year's
yes,
minutes.
question
quickly.
at the front.
Got another error on page 10.
Ie, ar y dudalen yma ymlaen yn
Pop your
benodol.
headsets on, please, everyone.
Dwi'n yn siŵr iawn pa mae pawb yn tychan, achos mae yna ddwy iaith swyddogol yn fan hyn. Dwi'n jyst yn arfer fy newis iaith. Yn yr un modd ydych chi'n arfer eich dewis chitha. Ar dudalen 11, Mae yna gofnod anghywir ar ôl Conor Thomas ymlaen. Nes I ddim cyfrannu at y drafodaeth yna o gwbl. Ddim yn siŵr at be mae hwnna'n cyfeirio. A wedyn, ar y tudalennau dilynol ar 12, mae yna sawl gwall yn y cofnodion. Rhif 6 ynglyn â chreu swyddog llawn amser ar gyfer ôl raddedigion. Dwi'n cofio cyfrannu'n helaeth i'r drafodaeth yna. Dydyn nhw heb gael ei cyfnodi yn y fersiwn Gymraeg na'r fersiwn Saesneg. Hefyd, mae yna gyfraniad gan Claire Blakeway, so dwi'n cymryd na Claire Blakeway ydy hwnna i fod, yn sôn am papur newydd y myfyrwyr o dan eitem 6 a ddigwyddodd y cyfraniad hwnnw ddim yn fanno chwaith. Felly, oherwydd bod yna sawl gwall yn y cofnodion, ydy o'n bosib cynnig bod ni yn mynd yn ôl ailedrych ar y tap sydd wedi cael ei gymryd o hwn a dirprwyo yr cyfrifoldeb i Senedd y myfyrwyr nesaf i basio'r cofnodion yma.
Stefan, can I ask whether you're asking for a procedural motion to send this to Senate?
Yes.
Do we have a seconder for that procedural motion? Okay, thank you. Okay, so just to be clear, we're voting in order to send the ratification of the minutes to Student Senate for their approval rather than you guys voting here. So all those in favour of that procedural motion, please raise your cards. Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Procedural motion passes. That will be ratified by Senate. Thank you.
Gai hefyd ofyn ar y pwnc o'r un cofnodion. Dwi wedi cyfeirio at greu rôl y swyddog sabothol llawn amser ar gyfer o raddedigion. Fe basiodd y cynnig yna. O ddim yn manylu sydd yn union fysa'r cynnig hwnnw yn cael ei wireddu. Fe basiodd hwnnw cyn pasio bod ni'n dileu swydd y swyddog sabothol ar gyfer y cyfrynga'r myfyrwyr. Ac yn unol â cyngor dwi wedi gael gan staff yr undeb ynglyn â darllen y cyfansoddiad, os gan aelodau cyffredin ddim hawl i newid cyfansoddiad yr undeb, ac onid oedd hynny felly yn newid cyfansoddiad yr undeb cyn dileu swydd arall. Mae hwnna'n boint allan ni drafod ymhellach wrth drafod a y cyfnodion yma, felly oedd y penderfyniad yna'n gyfansoddiadol ei peidio.
I'm happy for you to ask that as a question open to the trustees, because we do have to do that, otherwise you can raise it at Senate. It's up to you. Okay? So with that procedural motion having passed, we now just have to move to item 6, which is open questions to the trustees.
That student has been passed to Senate, it's going to be looked at by the Senate.
Yes, please. The student in the light blue at the front.
Byddai'n siarad Gymraeg, so...
Headsets on, please, everybody.
And he's also a Welsh speaker, so...
Dylan Williams, Llywydd Gymgym. Mae gen i ddau brif gwestiwn, basically. Nath Claire ddeud gyna bod na just tua 4,500 o bunnoedd gafodd ei wario ar fuddsoddiad ar y Gymraeg. Gan gofio mai buddsoddiad ar y Gymraeg oedd yr arian yna fod, pam fod cyfloga staff dwyieithog yn cael ei gynnwys yn y swm yna, pan mae yna adran benodol i gyfloga ar y papur. Yn ogystal, gan eto gofio mai buddsoddiad i'r iaith Gymraeg, mae'r arian yma fod, pan fod gwasanaethau cyfieithu yn cael ei cynnwys yn yr arian hynny, pan di o ddim yn hybu'r Gymraeg o fewn yr undeb, ar basis i'r dymor fel mae investment fod i wneud. O'n i dyletswydd ydi cyfieithu gan fod yr undeb yn gweinyddu yn uniaith Saesneg. O ystyried felly fod cyflog staff ac offer byr dymor ydi gael i gynnwys yn yr ffigwr 4,500. Gaffon i chi ddatgelu faint yn union gafodd ei wario fel fuddsoddiad ar y Gymraeg yn benodol ac ar brofiad penodol myfyrwyr Cymraeg. Diolch.
Thank you. One of the trustees like to take that? Yes, scream a microphone for Claire, please.
Thank you for your question. Claire Blakeway, Students' Union President. So the figure that was presented, the 19,000, That takes into account all costs we spent around the Welsh language. Just in terms of our budgeting process, this is the bracket that it falls within, and that's why bilingualism fell within that bracket. The Welsh language coordinator salary also fell within that bracket as it's specific investment to the Welsh language.
Thank you. Any other questions to the trustees? Yes, the student in the middle, please. And then can we have a mic ready for the hand that was up on the right, if you can just re-raise your hand for us.
My name is Sarah Al-Sayed. I'm a student senator. I was just wondering the question that I had earlier about what's the status of the motions that passed from last year's AGM and how they were carried out, or if they were actually carried out.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask which one of the trustees would like to take that question?
Student has now asked
Claire.
what's happened with their motion that's passed last AGM.
Okay, so in regards of the status of the motions from last year's AGM, I'd need to look at this in more detail, as obviously this is something that my colleagues from last year also took forward. So if I could ask if I could get back to you at a later date with the specific status, because I wouldn't want to give you any incorrect details. But I can assure you that progress has been made, and the sabbatical officer team, after every AGM, sit down and go through the motions and work at the areas in which we need to action on.
Thank you. And I believe there was a question on this side of the room.
Hi, Jordan Cadell. I was just wondering what measures have been put in place by the Students' Union in response to the scenes that we saw at Halloween for Flux the other day, and how it's going to be managed better in the future with crowd control and other measures that can make it safer for other students so that nobody suffers from anxiety attacks or panic attacks or gets crushed like they were the other week.
First of all, I'd like to apologise for what happened the other week in the Students' Union. It was quite frankly unacceptable, and it's incredibly upsetting to hear about it. We have taken very strong actions to make sure this doesn't happen again. So our security staff will be working earlier in the evenings. Basically what happened last week was our security staff, we had several in the building, but we didn't have all the staff there as they arrived at 10 o'clock, and the incidents with the queues started at 9:30. So we weren't to full capacity with our security because the nightclub hadn't opened. But we are making sure that we have security in place before the nightclub even opens now, just in case we do get an influx of people queuing before the opening of the nightclub. But can I just emphasise that I really apologise for what happened last week.
We've also had a question submitted, so I'll ask it to the trustees. They'd just like to know whether international students are able to vote in the Welsh Assembly elections later this year.
As details on this, Welsh international students can't vote in the Welsh Assembly elections.
Any further questions? Yes, we'll go to the student in the middle in the red, then we'll come forward. I think there were two more hands in the middle as well.
Dwi am siarad yn Gymraeg.
Headsets, please, everyone.
Headsets on.
Headsets for the Welsh speaker.
Da chi wedi trafod cyfrifoldeb y brifysgol I wrth sefyll yn erbyn diwylliant y lad, ond yn y flwyddyn dwytha, dwi'n siŵr bod yna lot yn cofio yna stŵr mawr efo Dapl Laughs, y comediwr yn cael ei wadd i'r undeb. A mae o'n neud I rywun feddwl sut bod rhywun fel yna'n cael ei wadd pan mae gennych chi'r policy clear yna I sefyll yn erbyn y math yno beth. Dwi'n, dach chi'n bod, os ydych chi wedi gwylio unrhyw bethau fo, diolch yn math o fwy. Mae'n standard lad, dach chi'n bod, epitome o lad. A sut, pwy sy'n gyfrifol am wneud penderfyniad fel yna I wadd rhywun sy'n amlwg yn gwrthwneud y policy clear yr undeb ar y mater yna. A pam bod y cyfrifoldeb yn gorfod disgyn ar y myrfyrwyr I sefyll yn ei erbyn o?
Can I ask who would like to take the question?
Can I just ask for some clarification? I didn't get my headset on time for the beginning of that question, so could that be repeated, please?
Would you mind repeating it, please?
Yeah, felly, I wneud efo cyfrifoldeb a penderfyniad yr undeb I sefyll yn erbyn diwylliant y lad yng Nghaerdydd. Mwyn o lai cwestiwn ydy, pwy sy'n gyfrifol am y penderfyniad i wadd rhywun fel y comediwr Dapper Laughs i Gaerdydd, a pam bod y cyfrifoldeb gorfod disgyn ar y myfyrwyr i hunan i weithredu ni erbyn o, a nid y corff sydd wedi dweud bod nhw'n mynd i arbed y math yna beth rhaid digwydd.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to confirm that Dapper Laughs wasn't invited to perform on our campus by members of staff in the Students' Union. Basically, the way it works with our gigs is that we have third-party promoters that book out time slots throughout the year where they want to host a gig here, and we have quite little control over what they fill that with. Obviously, they are aware of our union policies, and unfortunately in this case, they went against the union policy, the third-party organisation, by inviting Dapper Laughs onto campus. But I just want to emphasise that the union had a very strong stance against Dapper Laughs coming onto campus, and we were very actively against it. I actually went on BBC Radio Wales to debate with Dapper Laughs around his behaviour and how I think it's unacceptable 2 weeks ago. I just want to say we do have a strong stance on this, and on that occasion it was a third-party organisation that invited Dapper Laughs here, not the Students' Union.
Thank you.
Just clarifying
there are two more hands in the middle.
Dapper Laughs was invited onto campus by a third party, and he was rejected by the union and then for his controversial opinions as a comedian.
So I have my name is Vaishnavi. I'm the president of the Indian Society, and I have a question in regarding to the union stance on international students. So there are two major issues that international students do face, but since we don't have a full-time officer, we have a part-time officer who's most of the time busy with academics. First of all, international students see an increase of tuition fee every year without any prior notice. Normally, before the term starts, you get an email that your tuition fee is this much. There's not a mention that it has increased. It's just a new number, and many people come on loans from their countries, and there's no notice given that can you afford this £1,000 change that happens every year. What is the union stance? What is the VP Education doing about that? Because there's no transparency on how, for law, for example, a Welsh student pays 3, English students pay 9, and I pay 14.5. Second of all, with the new visa changes, there's no proper guidance from academic schools on how that affects us. When we had the law fair, there was no clarity that most of the companies there did not have license to fund visas for international students. So I actually wasted 2 hours over there just being able to talk to 2 companies. So what is the union doing with the university to make it more transparent for the international students who come over here? What's the information available for us, and what support can we expect from the university?
Got a question there about...
Can I ask who'd like to take it, please?
How the SU looks after their international students.
So I just want to say we work with the National Union of Students, obviously on majority of our campaigns, and this is an issue that we really recognise and are working with the National Union of Students to tackle. And next Wednesday we're doing a walkout for international students, and we invite all Cardiff University students to leave their lectures at 12 o'clock to essentially show their support for the campaign against the fierce circumstances that international students are under from our current government. And we'll be further working with NUS around tuition fees and the increasing restrictions to international student visas. If you want to take this matter further, we obviously welcome motions to our Student Senate, which will give a really strong mandate that we can further take with us on our campaign. Thank you.
Hi, the SU has said that they're in favour of free education. Will they commit to doing some real-world, non-passive action then to show their support for students and the right to free education, such as promoting demos, sending emails around, and actually taking an active, not passive role in the fight for free education?
Claire, would you like to take that question?
So obviously this year we supported the free education demo for the first time in several years, and we're really pleased to be part of that. And yes, we do support students to go on demos, and throughout the next year we want to be more active in doing so, and I think it's really good that we've already supported students to go on one demo, and future demos that are coming up, of course, we want to get involved in support.
Sorry, just quickly.
Is there a further question?
It's necessary on that question, yeah.
Needs to be a question, please.
Clarification. You've said that you've supported students on this demonstration. Could you tell me which of the officers went on the demonstration? What measures the SU put in place to either publicise or give transport? Because in my experience, the experience of everyone who attended that demo, the SU didn't send any delegates, didn't support the actual demonstration itself, and weren't actually involved in it.
Okay, so I can confirm that elected officers didn't attend that demonstration, and that was because we had things in our diary already that we couldn't get out of, unfortunately. We did support the demonstration by giving students, we contributed £15 toward travel expenses for students to attend the demonstration. And we believe that these £15 covered all travel expenses, as I researched before, to make sure that we could cover the costs of that.
Thank you, Claire. Any further questions to trustees?
That was another question about Cardiff University.
Please, we'll take the student on the end of the row here, and then we'll come
supporting
the
free
student
education.
in the middle, please.
Hi, Adam Osborne, Chemistry Society President. I'd like to say that I was recently concerned, whilst at a club night at the Student Union, of the amount of people that were being ejected from the venue for having drugs upon them. And I'd like to know what measures are in place to prevent drugs entering our venues, and does the union believe that these are effective? And I'd also like to know what education is provided by the union to students, warning them of the dangers of drug abuse. And really, does the union take drug abuse seriously, or is this issue just being brushed under the carpet to avoid disadvantage to venue profit?
Thank you. Claire, would you like to take that again?
Yeah. As you just said, that you feel that you've witnessed students with drugs, this is incredibly serious, and I'd like to speak to you further about that and what you've seen, because we need to investigate further into that, because that type of behaviour is completely unacceptable in the Students' Union. In regards to awareness campaigns, we are involved in awareness campaigns. We're currently running one with South Wales Police at the moment around drinking sensibly. We have several things in place to ensure that students, if they do behave inappropriately in our nightclub, they do receive a ban, which can be a life ban, and that just further proves that this type of behaviour is completely unacceptable. We welcome students to work with us on these campaigns, and I just further want to emphasise that alcohol abuse and drugs are not acceptable within the Students' Union.
That was
Thank you. Looking at the time, I'm happy to take another 3 questions. If there is a lot of demand for questions, then I think it would be beneficial to look to arrange a forum in front of the trustees so it can be done at that time. So I'm going to take 3 more questions. Raise your hands high if you'd like to ask a question.
Only
so we've got the lady over there on the right,
today,
gentleman at the front, and so we're going to go right to the back corner, and the student at the back there, please. If you can each get a mic, please, and we'll ask all 3 questions as well, if trustees are happy to note them down. Okay, we'll take the first question as well. So 4 questions, please.
4 questions.
Hi, my name is Cecils. It was said in the annual general report that only a small amount of funding was secured for asylum seekers last year. Given the current refugee crisis, I'm asking whether the Student Union will consider helping secure more funding for asylum seekers to access university.
The question was now raised whether or not the SU will encourage the university to make it more accessible.
Can we have the other questions? So can we have a question on the far side?
With a big refugee crisis that has been with us for the last few months.
Feels that it's a democratic process to essentially force like sports club members to attend the AGM. Basically, to elaborate, we have to have at least 3 people from our group to come to the AGM, or we get penalised for the bronze or silver tier that our club might have.
Thank you. Can we have a microphone to the student at the back to ask his question?
Hi, my name's Sebastian. My question to the SU is, I was wondering what the stance of the union is regarding the banning of controversial academic speakers. Personally, I feel that free academic debate is essential with any institution of further education, and that censorship is unacceptable. Part of being an academic is coming into contact with views that one disagrees about.
Thank you. And the microphone to Stefan for a final question, please.
Ie, dwi jyst eisiau gofyn, pam...
Pop your headphones on, please, everyone.
Dwi'm yn gwybod pam mae pobl yn tychan, mae hyn jyst yn warthus. Be sy'n o'i le efo'r ffaith bod fi'n dymuno cyfrannu yn Gymraeg i gyfarfod ym Mhrifysgol Prifddinas Cymru, lle mae'r Gymraeg yn iaith swyddogol. Diolch yn fawr. Gai ofyn os gwelwch yn dda. Pam na all aelodau arferol yr undeb wella'r cyfansoddiad neu basio cynnig mewn cyfarfod cyffredinol sy'n ysgogi newid o'r fath? Ond i gwir amdani felly, ydy gall myfyrwyr sicrhau newid, ond mae'n dweud ar y banner tu nôl i ni fan hyn, o fewn y strwythurau cil a ddarperir yn cyfyrnu gan aelodau staff ar hyn o bryd, a hefyd ar y pwynt o benodi aelodau staff, all y llywydd gadarnhau sut mae aelodau staff yn cael eu penodi ac os na fwyafrif o gynrychiolwyr myfyrwyr etholedig ar Baneli sy'n penodi staff. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you. So pass over to the trustees, please.
Kate Delaney, Vice President Welfare. I'll just answer the first question about asylum seekers and refugees. So last year we secured the university got us some scholarships for a small number of refugees, which is a great progress. And I think you'll support me in saying that obviously this is a good process and we can keep going with it. So it's something that I can take forward, and if anyone wants to come and talk to me, then please feel free to.
Thank you.
Sam Parsons, AU President. On the second point about a democratic organisation forcing people to come to AGM, first and foremost, we want to make sure that things that are passed here don't affect negatively in the society or the club involved. Furthermore, we want to ensure there's a full student representation here. Therefore, we want to make sure that students from a diverse range of backgrounds are in attendance. And finally, we found that the students that are involved with societies and clubs are our most engaged students most of the time, and therefore they provide a relatively well-informed base of students, and that is why it is part of the tier structure of both societies and clubs for students, 3 members of each club to attend the AGM.
Thank you.
The Students' Union, of course, promotes the freedom of speech. Like, we're at university, it's time to challenge ideas, and of course we encourage freedom of speech. However, when freedom of speech victimises our students, of course, our students can take a stance around that, and if they take their stance to Student Senate and mandate the student union to have a particular stance, we will take that stance. In regards to the fourth question around how members of staff are appointed in the union, so when members of staff are appointed in the union, the panel consists of members of staff who are employed either by the university or the Students' Union, because they are trained to be on that panel, and they are trained to essentially ask the right questions and kind of get a gauge of whether that person would fit into the organisation. Obviously, as members of staff work within that organisation on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you very much.
The first part of the question was referring to Constitution.
Sorry. So in regards to the Constitution, members are allowed to bring motions to have a new officer, but obviously the number of roles is set quite clearly by the Constitution at the moment at 7. So if they want to rejig any of those roles, they can, but obviously it would be at the expense of another officer. In regards to creating a new role, that has to go through to our Board of Trustees. And this is because trustees are financially accountable for the organisation. Therefore, they hold the decision of whether we have enough money to cut from another service in the union to allocate to a new role. This aligns with information and guidance provided by Companies House and Charity Law.
Stefan, did you want to come back to that question?
Dwi jyst ddim yn meddwl bod hwnna wedi ateb y cwestiwn. Y cwestiwn oedd, pam na, dwi'n dall bod y cyfansoddiad yn dweud na allwn ni mond cael 7 swyddog, ond pam, os mae dyna di dymuniad aelodau'r undeb, pam na allwn ni gynyddu'r nifer hwnnw i 8 swyddog, a pam na all pleidlais mewn cyfarfod democrataidd o aelodau'r undeb newid hynny?
Sorry, Stefan, but could you repeat the question? My headphones aren't working. Could I have another set of headphones, please? Thank you.
Iawn. Yr hyn o'n i'n ofyn oedd, dwi'n dall na dim ond 7 swyddog mae'r cyfansoddiad yn ganiatáu ar hyn o bryd, ond yn cwestiwn i oedd, pam na all y cyfansoddiad hwnnw gael ei newid i gynnwys 8 swyddog, neu 9 swyddog, neu 10 swyddog, neu faint o swyddogion bynnag, mae'r aelodau cyffredinol o'r undeb yn ei basio mewn cyfarfod democrataidd o fwyafrif o aelodau'r undeb yma.
Thank you for your question, Stefan. So, if members feel there needs to be a creation of a new sabbatical role, they are welcome to put agenda items forward to the Board of Trustees, which then can discuss whether we need that role. And of course, we will listen to a democratic mandate, and if there is a need for that role from the students. Our Board of Trustees is actually made up of over half students, so there is student representation on that board. But as I said, trustees are financially accountable, therefore it's up to them whether we take money from other services to invest in a new sabbatical role.
Thank you very much. As mentioned, if you do have lots of other questions for the trustees, please email them to agm@cardiff.ac.uk. I'm sure if there is a strong demand, then the trustees will look to organise a forum where they can be answered. So the final thing for me to do is to announce notice of election. This is for Students' Union main elections. So there's a number of roles you can run for. The full-time officer roles, which are the trustees who've just been answering your questions. The roles on offer are Students' Union President, VP Education, VP Welfare, Postgraduate Students, Heath Park Campus, VP Societies and VP Sports. All of these roles are full-time, so you take a year out from your studies, or you can do them after you graduate. As well as working on the specific remits such as education, you also have a number of responsibilities as a trustee in general. Obviously one of those is answering any questions from students at times like this. There are also 9 campaign officer roles which are taken alongside your degree, and there's also my job, so if you think you can do a better job than I did, then please do run. I can't say any more how much I'd ask you to put yourselves forward. Even if you nominate yourself, find out information, then decide you don't want to run. As a sabbatical officer from last year, it's a fantastic experience. It's very rare to come into a company so high up and get so much experience at such a young age. So I really would implore you all to put yourself forward for election. You are all eligible, providing you're a Cardiff student and providing you haven't already been an elected officer for 2 years. Other than that, we move to any other business. We haven't received any items. So if anyone does have any items for any other business, raise your hand. Okay, yeah. Can we have a mic over to the student on the far right?
Third year law student and president of the Gaming Society. I would like just to refer back to the point made about the last year's meeting, in the minutes of last year's meeting, about the VP of Student Media. I'd like to go on record because I think it's been referred to the Senate. I still feel it's been misunderstood why that happened. I was part of the editorial team for Quench last year, and basically it was the point that we thought we weren't operating very well, and also the fear that if someone new was elected, we could all lose our positions. We put a lot of effort in. It was very stressful, and if it is going to the Senate, an issue on it, I would like to go on record to say that I still think it's been misunderstood, and it shouldn't be taken away from the fact that it's a lot of hard work, and we didn't want to lose our positions. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know whether one of the trustees wants to come back to that, but just for your information, all students are able to attend Senate to observe, and if there is time in the Senate meeting, then the chair, myself, would allow them to speak, so you would be able to bring it on record. Thank you. Another item at the front, please.
Dwi'n mynd I siarad Cymraeg, so.
Headsets on, please.
Enw fi ydi Dylan Williams, a fi ydi Llywydd Gymgym blwyddyn yma, ac o'n I jyst isio codi'r pwynt. Heno yma, wel, yn bersonol dwi wedi dod ar draws rei tweets sydd actually wedi dod allan yn eitha iaith Gymraeg. Yn ogystal hynna, mae'n siŵr bod rhan fwyaf o'ch chi wedi dod ar draws erthigol gafodd ei gyhoeddi, oedd hefyd yn di Gymraeg. Ac yn ogystal hynna, heno yma, dwi wedi clywed pobl yn tuchan pan mae pobl yn siarad Cymraeg. Ac dwi jyst isio deud ar lefel personol bod fi'n ffeindio hynna'n rhywbeth sy'n ei fi'n drist iawn. Ac pan mae'r trustees ac pwy bynnag yn cynllunio polisïau newydd jyst i gysidro'r agweddau sydd dal yn bodoli ac yn bodoli yn yr ystafell yma, mae'n amlwg. Diolch.
Diolch. Ac os gai, efo'ch caniatad chi. Diolch, Dylan. Diolch, Dylan, am wneud y pwynt yna. A jyst i ategu at yr hyn mae Dylan wedi dweud, os ydy'r myfyriwr sydd wedi trydar, this guy can clearly speak English, so stop showing off with the Welsh. What is going on? Os ydy'r myfyriwr sydd wedi trydar hwnna yn ystafell yma, mae croeso ni ddod ar y llwyfan yna ac egluro ni, fel rhywun sydd wedi dod i Brifddinas Cymru i astudio, lle mae ganddo ni iaith swyddogol ar Gymraeg ydi honno, fysa nhw'n hoffi dod ar y llwyfan yma i gyfiawnhau hynna ac i gyfiawnhau y gwedda. Ac o'n i'n dydy hyn felly yn dystiolaeth glir a chadarn o'r angen pellach am y swyddog llawn amser i gynrychioli ac i warchod myfyrwyr Cymraeg i haith yn y brifysgol hon.
Thank you, Stefan, for the point. We won't be inviting whoever that student was to come on stage. If you would like to make a formal complaint, please do so, Stefan. Thank you very much. If there are any other questions for any other business, not just questions to the trustees. No? Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sticking with us. I'd like to formally close this meeting. Thank you to all our helpers and staff for making it happen. Thank you to the trustees for answering the questions to the best of their ability.
Union TV will still be on air for a little bit longer, as we're going to be speaking to the President, Claire Blakeway. So 3 out of 3 motions passed tonight, and a lot of questions answered. So successful night?
I'd say so. Seems very successful. I'd say there's quite a lot of people here as well, and even though some of them have already left, they didn't stay to the end. I'd say it's good to see that the kind of students are really like engaging and that they do really care about their student union. And it's also amazing to see how bilingual everything is. Just the headsets, how it works.
Fantastic, yeah.
It's really, I don't understand how it works.
I wish we had them up here. I had no idea what was going on. But no, it's great to see so many people coming out, and I think almost every chair was full whilst we were going through the motions. So it is great to see so many students turning out to the Great Hall tonight. We can currently see a lot of the representatives are being swamped with questions afterwards, but we will try and get you a few more questions with Claire Blakeway as soon as we can, as the lights come on in the Great Hall.
I'd say this meeting seems to be a lot less controversial than what was last year. Last year was a very long, very tiring meeting. A lot of very opposing opinions came forward, but I think this year it's been a lot smoother. All the motions passed, and I'd say although the second motion was a bit
that was the closest one, about 60-40, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't as straightforward, but they all passed and quite smoothly, so I'd say. So it's been an interesting night. Now it's all about how are these motions gonna affect student life? How are they gonna actually come into life? I think what's going to happen now is that the elected officers are going to work towards making a change within their university.
Yeah. The interesting one will be that fossil fuels one. We saw someone come up to the front and say it can take up to 20 years for these changes to actually implement into our lifestyle. So we may be waiting quite a long time for that one. Also,
will the university be willing to change their ways when they obviously do make money off it?
Exactly, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how much the student union really can do for that. The seats are now again empty.
If you do have any thoughts, any questions you'd like to ask us, or anything you'd like to ask to Claire Blakeway, we'll be speaking to her very soon, please tweet in #CardiffAGM. Or find us on Twitter @Cardiff Union TV. So just drop us a message if there's anything you'd like to say.
Definitely. I feel like maybe that last topic that was raised by to those Welsh-speaking students, I feel like that might be quite controversial, and quite a lot of action on Twitter about that. For those of you who didn't have headphones or watched the broadcast online, might not have understood what that was about, but that was basically them saying that they didn't appreciate the tweets about saying like how they were able to speak English, then just showing off with Welsh language, and they felt quite disrespected.
Victimised
definitely.
Almost,
so I feel like that might be going off on social media, especially with the tab articles that have been quite popular now.
But it is fantastic to see a lot of Welsh-speaking people voicing their opinions in their native language, which is their exact right to do so. So it's great to see. We do have 30,000 students here at Cardiff University, and there are so many languages and such diversity we've got throughout the student body, but it is great to see Welsh language on the up.
Definitely. Also, just to remind everyone to register to vote at the Welsh Student Centre, as our SU President talked about in the beginning of the meeting. The election will be in May, so please, May 5th, so please do remember to register before that time so you can participate in the election. It's just as important as you would in a national election, so please do remember to do that. Other than that, we will soon have Claire up to speak to us about how she felt like the AGM went.
We'll just have a quick recap of the motions that got passed. So the first motion was the support for student parents. That was almost unanimous. That went straight through. Motion number 2, a bit more controversial. That was to ask for compulsory mental health training for personal tutors. So for students suffering, 1 in 4 students have mental health problems during their time at college or university, so getting that one passed. But that did go through, so we'll hopefully see some change in that coming up soon. And obviously the third motion to do with fossil fuel investment, and obviously more. But we do have the President here with us at the moment.
Hello. Yes, we do now have Claire with us. How do you feel like the night went, the evening went?
I think the evening went really well. It was great to see so many students involved in student politics. I don't think we've had any amount of questions like we saw tonight being asked to the trustees and to the student union president, obviously myself, whilst up on the stage. And I think that's just really exciting. It just shows how many students are actually really interested in what we're doing.
So do you think it went really smoothly, or a few bumps in the road, but overall it was quite 3 motions passed, so are you happy with it? Or?
Yeah, I do think it went smoothly. Obviously I was challenged on quite a few things.
Did you find that
which is a good thing?
difficult?
Not really. I felt like I had adequate responses to them all, and I'm accountable to the students, so it's great that they were really showing that accountability and making sure that I was representing them and representing their needs.
What's the next step in getting these motions actually put into life?
Okay, so I will sit down with the sabbatical officer team over the next week, and we'll go through each motion and we'll talk about who the relevant officer roles are to take those motions forward to the university, and we'll also obviously be working with the proposers of those motions as well to get their support. But we meet with the university on a regular basis. It's like a partnership group within the university, and they're the right people to take these motions forward for us. However, it's not always a smooth ride. There is often a lot of lobbying we have to do, maybe gather kind of extra research to really weight our arguments.
Do you feel like one of the motions passed today will be extra difficult?
I think the divestment one, I think we'll have a challenge with, as the university has so much invested in fossil fuels. But it's such an important issue, and you saw how many students got involved in that debate. So many people are so passionate about it. Yeah. The fact that other universities are leading the way with this, we need to catch up.
Definitely. How important do you feel like the AGM is to the SU or to the Cardiff students?
The AGM is the biggest democratic event that we have in the whole year here at the Students' Union, so it's massive. The mandate from this is so strong when we take it to the university. I can guarantee so many university lecturers, people really high up in the university, have been watching this live on CUTV tonight, which is exciting. They're probably watching me right now.
That is quite cool.
There's
isn't
a
it?
camera just there. Giving a wave.
Oh, sorry, am I
I didn't realise that.
Just getting that anyway. So we saw at the end we had a gentleman speak up about Welsh speaking. is that something you encourage? Obviously, it got quite a good response from that. Is it great to see sort of the Welsh language being pushed out into the questions?
Yes, it was. I'm incredibly supportive of the Welsh language, and it's great that it's coming up on the political agenda. And as you can see, the Students' Union has invested a large amount of money into the Welsh language over the course of last year, and in the next year we're going to be investing around £30,000, unprecedented amounts of money, which is really exciting. And I'm working with the Welsh language officer to really improve our provisions further.
Fantastic.
Do you feel like that will help with how the students now felt like they were kind of being a little bit, what did you call it?
What, the
victimised?
Yes, yeah, and I think it will. I mean, we're putting together a Welsh language policy, which is essentially a bilingual policy, and we'll look at all the ways in which we're going to include the Welsh language into the Students' Union. Obviously, it's already included, but further enhance it, increase opportunities for its use. And I think that document's going to have a really heavy weighting in having a really positive outlook on the Welsh language and getting more people using the Welsh language. Yeah, it's something I'm really, really supportive of.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you very much.
Did you enjoy it tonight?
So thank you very much for watching tonight. That is the end of the CUTV coverage for AGM.
For this year, we'll obviously cover it next year as well.
Yep.
Until then, you should check out all our videos on YouTube. That is Cardiff Union TV. Cardiff Union
It's on the shirt you're wearing. But,
obviously. So do check that out. And obviously as well, stay involved with the hashtag Cardiff AGM. It's trending. We still really want to hear your views on this.
Yeah, this won't be the end of it, so thank you very much, and it was lovely to be with you tonight.